First meeting in June. Half the year is almost over. Would you, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Would you please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, would you sign in, please? Ms. Hawley?
All councilors present and a quorum has been declared.
Thank you. Next up, we have agenda approval. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
There's not.
Thank you.
If not, Mayor, I will make the motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Councilor. Next on the agenda, we have citizen comment. Alamosa City Council welcomes your comments. Citizens wishing to speak may obtain and complete a speaker card through the City Clerk at the start of the meeting. I have several cards here specific to the marijuana issue. We will, if you want to be on the record concerning speaking on this issue, you can wait for the public hearing, or you can do it now, whichever you prefer.
Just to be clear, doing it now, you would not be on the record with respect to that issue.
Thank you, Councilor. Don Kanan, would you prefer to be in on the public hearing? For the hearing. Oh, okay. Suzanne Kanan as well. Cynthia Walsh.
I'll wait.
Terry Wiley. Thank you. We'll entertain those at the public hearing. Next up, we have Robert Pickett. Mr. Pickett, address the podium, tell us your name and address if you wish. Thank you, sir. You have a 3-minute time limit.
Thank you. My name is Robert Pickett, and I live at 335 Riverwood here in Alamosa. It's not very often you get the opportunity to not only to address you as council, but to address community members as well. And I kind of want to take that opportunity by the horns here to let the community know kind of where we are and how we got here for as far as the ice rink. A long time ago, and then the years seem to start to fade together here. A group of hockey players got together and wanted to start an ice rink, and we quickly realized that it wasn't going to happen with just our small group. As they say, it takes a community to raise a child. Well, I've now realized it takes a community to raise an ice rink and a hockey program. Most people see the people that are on the front lines. They see the coaches. They see Parks and Rec staff removing snow or whatever, and what they don't see is a lot of the other people that are maybe behind the scenes. You know, they don't see people like Pat. I don't know if you guys remember the snow we had this January, but don't see people like Pat that steps out of the office and is, you know, blading the runway at the airport to get a live flight in, and then somehow makes it to a meeting with the architect. They don't see that kind of thing. Another thing I'm not sure they see is the success that this program hasn't been just with a handful of people. There's been a common denominator, and the common denominator has been City Council. Every time that we've wanted to build or wanted something to happen, we couldn't do it on our own. We needed City Council to do it. When we needed lights to go up, City Council helped us with a grant. We got lights. When we needed equipment, they helped us. When we needed a Zamboni, somehow you guys figured it out. I still don't know how these things work, and I probably never will, but you guys figured that out. When we needed a place to put something to put the Zamboni in so it didn't freeze, you guys figured it out. You guys found a shed. You got it out there. You poured concrete. And this has been quite a long road. I mean, I've seen a lot of your guys' faces for 12 years now. And before that, I'd never been to a city council meeting, you know? So the things that have happened in the past have all been positive, and thanks to you guys for that. I'm incredibly humbled at every time I talk to you guys, how much ownership you take, and not only this project, but the entire city. This is something you don't see in other cities. You don't see a city councilor, you know, out digging trees. You don't see a city councilor stepping down from the bench to come help with certain projects in the city. Like, I commend you guys for taking time out of your personal lives to do that kind of thing. This isn't something that every other Wednesday you guys meet, you know. It's a 24/7 job. I have no doubt that you guys will be on the phone when you get home with people in your community. So I just wanted to publicly say thank you guys for all that you've done for this project, and I'm excited to see where we're going. And thanks for having a meeting between Stanley Cup playoff games. That
Thank you,
helps.
Mr. Pickett. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you guys.
Ruth Brown. Ruthie?
City Council, Ruthie Brown. I live in the county and, no, I sleep in the county and live in the city. I knew months and months and months and months and months ago that the hockey rink was a done deal. So be it. And all I've ever asked is, when it is done, you can say kids with no money or families with no money or parents or grandparents with no money, that the city makes sure that every single child that wants to play hockey gets a first-class uniform, and with the full protection that every kid who can afford it gets. So beyond that, years and years and years and years and years ago, our mayor was there. I started, or tried to start, a living memorial fund with sculptures in the city of Alamosa. Was promised money to pay for the sculpture that Ed Clemmer loaned to me, and I guess somehow he wanted it back. Not sure what happened there, but I commend the city on their sculptures downtown. They look great. But driving over here tonight, I am blown away that some of them are in areas where there are no businesses. And you, again, have forgotten the South Side, because the South Side is not as well lit and less safe than downtown. Well, you know what? I've been speaking to downtown or 8th Street businesses, and we're going to ask the city for some things like flower planters, like trash cans, like we don't want to plant in recycled trash containers anymore, but certainly at least 2 or 3 of the sculptures I saw today, just happenstance driving by, could have gone on 8th and State. And I don't know if it's because of me being down there or whatever, but we work really hard. And I think we need to be considered. It would just be a small thing to include us in city beautification, period. I've donated for 10 years? All the flowers, all the soil, all the fertilizer, all the labor, for all the corners down there. We just do that because we care down there. But we're orphan children. So please stop down there and talk to the people down there. They'll tell you the same thing, that they don't know who you people are because no one goes to see them.
Thank you, Ruth. I have a late card here from Ferris Burvig on marijuana grows. Ferris, if you want to be on the record, you can wait for the public hearing, unless you want to do that now. You'll wait for the public hearing? Thank you, sir. These are all the cards I have. Is there any follow-up, staff?
No, sir.
Thank you. We'll move on then to consent calendar A. The consent calendar allows multiple actions with one motion. Consent calendar A contains routine items which have been recommended for action by staff or advisory boards. Council may remove a consent calendar item for separate consideration. Tonight we have 3 items, specifically the approval of the minutes of the meeting of May 17, 2017, the April 2017 expenditure report, and the April 2017 monthly report. Council? Councilor Daniel.
Mayor, I move that we approve consent calendar A.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. You approve consent calendar A. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Tonight we have, under regular business, 2 presentations from outside agencies. We have a Wildfire Academy presentation. Chief, thank you for being here.
Mayor, councilors, as you know, the Wildfire Academy has been going on in town this week, and tonight we have 3 representatives from the Academy. Jim Krugman, who is serving as the incident commander. Steve Ellis, who is wearing 2 hats tonight. He's representing the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention Control and also the Wildfire Academy. And Greg Hewley, who is the Public Information Officer at the Academy this week. So I'll let them have the floor. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Mayor and Council, first, our appreciation for the opportunity to present to you tonight. It's not going to be a long presentation. It's really just one of thanks. From the Colorado Wildfire and Incident Management Academy, this is our 5th visit over 25 years to your community. I'm a former resident of the Valley, and having watched this city and other communities in the Valley grow, it was really a pleasure for us to come back here this year. I represent an incident management team. This year in Alamosa, a little over 300 students that are in your community learning. We are a moving venue, and I get the privilege twice a year to present to city councils, to present to county commissioners, just to share our appreciation for things like the hospitality, your businesses, the contributions of the Chamber of Commerce, all these things that make us go. We are a 501. We don't make profit. We rely on student tuition, we rely on donations, and we rely on the local help of businesses and the community leadership to welcome us and make facilities available. It's not easy bringing 300 strangers into your town, and many of them are millennials. The challenge is increased. But what I couldn't resist that one. But what we do bring, and as we look through our rosters of students, we see young firefighters, we see young police people, law enforcement, anybody that's in the responder business is coming to this academy. It's no longer just about wildfire. It's about all these things that you are seeing happening in the world around you in the news, throughout the state of Colorado and neighboring states. So a lot of our training is oriented to start teaching these folks while they're young, as they mature, join the various departments throughout the valley, not just Alamosa, but throughout the state of the United States, that they take a piece of Alamosa with them when they leave here as part of the learning environment. So again, for everything the community has done for us, and working with our coordinator to make this happen, my deepest appreciation and representation of the entire incident management team and all of our students. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Again, my name is Steve Ellis. I work with the State of Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control. We're a proud sponsor of the Colorado Wildfire and Incident Management Academy. First time we were here in Alamosa, we just taught wildland fire classes. Now we've expanded to include some all-hazard classes. It's been great. Again, we as the state, we have an engine here. Some of you know Devin Haney's our FMO. that works for the 6 counties around here. Our engine is working out of the Alamosa Fire Department, so we want to thank the Alamosa Fire Department for allowing us to have space for our engine to assist the counties all around the city of Alamosa. The division has been sponsoring the Academy since our creation in 2012. We've expanded as the state of Colorado. We now have a couple of helicopters, one located in Canyon City and one located in Montrose. And those crews got expanded to 10 this year, as opposed to 6 from last year. So we're trying to increase our capabilities to assist the counties and the local fire departments all across Colorado. In terms of that, we have our single engine air tankers that we want to be able to be available. So there'll be 2 of those, one located in Fort Collins, one located in Rifle. And along with our engines, we're out there to support all that. But we need training, and the Colorado Wildfire and Incident Management Academy is the place that we get that training. And thanks to communities like yourself, it's worked out really well. We like working at Adams State. We were able to get all of our classes in one building. We come in, do about 20 to 30 classes in a week period of time. This year our student count was down a little bit, but that's due to a variety of different things, and hope to be able to come back in the future. I also serve on the board of directors for the Wildfire Academy, and as Jim said, we're a nonprofit organization, and Wendy is our coordinator, who's been the instigator since 1997 to pull all that off. So apologies that she couldn't make it tonight, but had a little golf tournament for our benefit fund, so she was out playing golf in the wind tonight. But again, thanks for having us, and if you guys have any questions, we'll be glad to answer those.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Councilor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. Jim, Steve, and Greg, I would like to thank you all very much for allowing Alamosa to host the Wildfire Academy. I had the fortunate opportunity this week to ride on the train ride with the group of students that you had. Over 300 were on that train ride, and I got a chance to learn a lot about what you do on a daily basis. I would like to let you know that we really appreciate you putting your lives on the line, not only in your community, but communities throughout the state of Colorado and other states as you're called on for that line of work. I learned something too. I didn't know that the #1 cause of fires are human. I thought it was lightning, but I learned that, and that was very informative. But I just want to let you know that by you allowing our city to host this event, it helped ASU, it helped the restaurants, it helps the hotel, and it also helped the businesses. Thank you for making a positive economic impact. And City Council members, I want you to know the sponsorship that we participated in was greatly received by all the participants as well. So I encourage us to do more things like this to bring more type of academies and training institutions to our community. Thank you.
Councilor Hensley.
I also want to thank you, first of all, echo what Councilor Coleman just said, in the sense of everything that you do and all the firefighters do to put your lives on the line for us. I teach at Adams State, and I've been there all week, and it's great to see the group around. They are friendly, they're nice. I overhear little conversations of some of the great things that they're enjoying. It feels like that things are going smoothly. At the same time, I've spoken to different hotels and different restaurants here, and how much they appreciate that this is happening here in our community, and also just how fun and friendly all of you are as well. So it's been just a great experience all the way around. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Diego.
I too want to echo what our past 2 councilmen people have just said. And thank you, gentlemen, coming to our community already 5 times, and I'll be coming back here next year, hopefully. And thank Adams State for having the facilities available so you can be together and operate there. So thank you very much, and thank you for helping us.
Gentlemen, you helped make Alamosa the hotbed of excitement during the summer months. It's really interesting. In the past, I've had opportunities to sit in on some of these classes, and I've always found them educational, interesting, informative, and very intense. And it's amazing what you can learn just by sitting there listening to somebody tell you about some of the experiences that they have had in the past in dealing with issues that you probably deal with on a daily basis. Thank you for coming to Alamosa. Thank you for bringing all that experience and lively entertainment in a sense to us. We appreciate it. Thanks again.
All right, thanks.
Anyone else? Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. We'll move on to the next outside agency, and we have a presentation that will be made by the Colorado State Treasurers and Public Trustees Association Summer Conference. Would you please approach the podium, and after your presentation, we would love to come down and be with you. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Lois.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, council members, good evening. I'm Lois Widhelm, the Alamosa County Treasurer and Public Trustee, and I'm here not only as a county elected official, but as a state elected official to inform you of an event that's going to be held in your fair city. We want to make you aware of what we hope will bring some new revenue, some return people that will fall in love with this valley, and make you aware of what we're going to be doing in a couple weeks. So with all respect, I can't wait for the Fire Academy to conclude so that we can get in and see what our rooms look like. But I don't know where they went to, but I meant that with just jest. We're very, very excited to see that there are so many different venues that are coming in and using the facility at the university, and we're fortunate enough to be doing the same thing. So allow me this evening to just explain to you a little bit about what we will be doing during the week of June the 19th through the 22nd. We will be hosting the Colorado County Treasurers Association and the Public Trustee Colorado Summer Conference. This will be held on the Adams State College University campus, and it will be the one event during the year where all 64 counties, all elected officials will be in one place where we will be able to work together, learn together, and hopefully play a little bit together. The first statewide conference was organized for these two associations January the 18th, 1926. Alamosa hosted the 56th conference in 1980 and the 75th conference in 1999. This year will be the 93rd conference of these associations. And I'm going to make proper introductions in a moment, but one of my cohorts, Connie Trujillo from Saguache County, who is the Treasurer and Public Trustee, or Matt Crowther, who is the Caneyas County Treasurer and Public Trustee, said, won't it be nice to think about the one that's going to do this again when it's the 100th year? It won't be me. But it's been a joy to plan it, and we look forward to having a successful conference. The Southern District is made up of several counties, and they have all come together to host this conference. It is made up of Alamosa County, for which I serve as the Treasurer and Public Trustee, Connie Trujillo, who is here with me this evening, Matt Crowther from Caneyas, who is also with me, and we have Annette Carino from Castilla County, Peggy Kern, Rio Grande County, Patty Payne, Mineral County, Debbie Reynolds, Warfano County, and Donna Leonetti, Los Animas. They have realized that the best place is to cross the mountain and come over here to the San Luis Valley. The Colorado County Treasurers Association and the Public Trustees Association of Colorado were created for the purpose to further the education of the elected and the appointed official, to promote professionalism of the members, to assist in improving members' offices, performances, and to provide for the exchange of information and ideas. The CCTA and PTAC associations have combined to form a continuing education committee, which is made up of elected officials throughout the state. And as a side note, I chair that particular committee. Their mission is to manage a certification program to assure that subject courses and presentations meet the program's professional requirements, the practical experience, and that we are always able to satisfy state statutes and serve our offices and the public. In order to do this, the meetings that we plan are based upon the requirements to do just what I've talked about. We plan classes that will satisfy those state statutes, and we work through the Colorado Mesa University to allow them to give us a certification program for which people that participate in this certification program for 4 years actually become certified treasurers and public trustees. So we take a lot of pride in the fact that we're not only having a conference, but we're leading to certification. This particular summer conference will actually be featuring 2 of your very own. We will have Christina Daniel and Ty Coleman, who will both be presenters at our summer conference, and we thank you very much. We will be meeting on the ASU campus for all courses and presentations. Additionally, we have some events that we hope will showcase Alamosa, the land of cool sunshine. We will host a barbecue at Cattails Golf Course, a banquet at the La Masia Barn Event Center, and each day we will be highlighting restaurants for our attendees to enjoy lunch and the downtown atmosphere. One evening, Matt Crowther will be presenting a piano concert at Leon Memorial, and we are very, very, very fortunate to have this kind of talent among us. We have worked very closely with the Alamosa Convention and Visitors Bureau to market our valley and to encourage attendees to stay and play. We have worked closely with our county commissioners, and we thank them from the bottom of our hearts because they have given us the means by which we started this venture, and we are 2 weeks away from concluding it. So I think our chair and some other folks from my county are here, and I personally thank them. We want our fellow treasurers and public trustees to enjoy their work this week, to enjoy the activities that we've planned, and to leave our town, our county, and the valley with the desire to return again soon. I would welcome any questions.
Thank you, Lois. Do we have any questions of Lois? Councilor Coleman.
I don't have any questions, Mayor, but I do have a comment. I would just like to commend Lois and her team, Connie and Matt and the rest of the crew. You all don't know how hard this lady has been working on this event. She's been working almost 2 years or plus more on this. When she booked me to give a presentation, it was almost 2 years ago. And they prepared all the way through because what they want to do is they want to make this event so special that their conference will come back here over and over again. And I just would like to thank you for putting in that hard work and that time and that dedication. And we will, Christina and I, will make sure that we leave a positive, lasting impression on the people who come here from the 64 counties. And thank you so very much for everything that you're doing for our community. Appreciate it.
Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with what Councilor Coleman said. But you guys, I have to tell you, when I met with you in the little conference room to talk about this, your first priority was how to make this work for our community. And that was huge for me. And so I appreciated that so much. And I know you're planning all of these wonderful events in the evenings. And I think it can't be said enough that not only were you dedicated to doing the education for this group of wonderful elected officials that we have coming, but also making sure they understood what we were about and that you took care of the community and the town and the county. And that's just been so wonderful to work with you during this process. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Griego.
Well, I've had the opportunity to know Lois for all my life, and you put something on her plate.
Don't put years on that.
Okay. You put something on her plate, and she's going to go 100%. And Mr. Coleman, I can imagine the hard work she's done, and to bring the valley together, to put this together in Alamosa and the whole valley, because from here, people will go to different parts of our valley and enjoy our valley. We thank all of you, and we appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Hensley.
I also just want to commend you, Lois. I may not have known you as long as Charlie's known you, but I've definitely known you a long time. And you are, anything you put your mind to, you put 100% in. You are very thorough. I know this is going to be a fantastic event. And I want to thank you for being an ambassador for Alamosa. You're awesome, and thank you very much. And to the committee, I know it's not just one person who does it. You got a great leader, but thank you to all of you to showcase San Luis Valley and to showcase Alamosa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Stefano.
Lois, I also want to thank you. You're a hardworking lady. All of you county treasurers, I'm sure you're always in the background. We don't see what you do, but I understand what you do, taking care of all property deeds, all that stuff. You're to be commended, and thank you for bringing this event here. Thank you.
Lois.
Yes.
Connie. Mac. Thank you very much. If you don't mind, we're going to come down and join you. But before that, please. I don't want you crying now because
I was touched.
please don't do that. You know, I think this council is totally behind you. We understand the hard work and discipline that it takes to get all these folks together and to bring them here. What a wonderful thing for Alamosa to be able to enjoy. And what an experience for the people that are going to come here to be able to experience what we have to offer as a small community. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to everyone that lives here. And especially you, Lois. I've known you for many, many years as well. You know, our kids played, well, I had a girl you had boys with, played basketball
Yes.
on the same court for many, many years. You and your husband were followers of teams, and wow, and Mac, I've known you for many years as well. You get a lot of my money down in Canals County, don't you? Thank you very much.
In fact, if you don't mind, we might mention that Mac served as the treasurer for the association for a number of years, and
14 years.
And he could mention that the turnout, it looks like, for Alamosa right now. Do you want to kind of give a little summary?
I think we'll be ahead of many of the back years. People in the state want to come to Alamosa this year. I think not just, the things that we offer down here in all the other counties to visit, so we're excited about it.
Absolutely. And Mac, I didn't realize you were an accomplished pianist.
Oh, yes.
Well, next time I come, is there a piano in your office?
No, but
well, if you don't mind.
We only have 180 tickets at Leon, and I'm afraid to tell you that we might have to have our sheriff folks outside watching, because I think people are trying to scalp some of the tickets to see his performance.
Well, wonderful. Yeah, you and I had a conversation, and I regret sincerely that I won't be there for the opening, but we have Colorado Municipal League that week, and but it obviously it's going to be something that I would have treasured. If you don't mind, we'll come down and visit with you.
And thank
Council?
you for your kind words.
And thank you.
Jeez, I can't believe it. It's very nice. That was kind of touching.
It was really nice.
So, come to the center.
Okay.
Center. you all for your patience too.
Audience, I'm sure you'd agree that that's probably some of the most fun things we get to do as counselors, is to take our picture with important people. Thank you. We will now move on to business brought forward by city staff. We have a few items here from Public Works. We will start with the award of bid to Alcon Construction for the construction of the multi-purpose facility / ice rink. Pat, thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you, sir. I think Heather and I are gonna work on this one together, and she's gonna start.
We're going to tag team it a little bit. We wanted to take this opportunity, since this has been a long process, to take a little bit of time to remind everyone, as Rob did, but maybe not as far back, on the history of this project. And to start with that, essentially, as a city, we were at a crossroads. What we had was a failing facility, and it was unsafe. And we were at a point in time where we needed to decide, do we continue an ice program, which is beyond just ice hockey, but ice in general? And if we do we invest in a current location that may not be best suited for that use, or do we invest more to make it a facility that would better meet the needs? Essentially, if we do invest in the existing location, it would be several $100,000, and we would only be guaranteeing ourselves maybe 3 weeks of ice, as we've seen in the previous years. That's a lot of investment, and that's when we really were worried about the return on investment for that much money for that little bit of ice time. And so it was something we were struggling with. As this project has moved forward, there has been changes in what the estimated costs are. Some of the key parts that we felt was important for this type of investment is it's a combination of the roof and some of the walls to protect it from the weather and the sun, but then also the chiller that's built into the slab. And so the goal would be to receive 5 months of ice, and then council's prerogative was to make sure we really market the multi-purpose side of that facility during the off years. There's been a lot of conversations with different groups on the potential use of that, and we look forward to trying to grow that if this is something that council moves forward on. We have been successful in receiving $610,000 in grants, which I believe is just amazing. It ranges from multiple partners across the state. And then locally, we've had 14 sponsors step up, and we've raised $22,000 that can be put towards this facility. I think one of the other resonating aspects of this project is a lot of times as a city, we're tasked with how can we help our economy, especially during the winter time. That's when some of our businesses slow down, the restaurants slow down, and it can be hard. This is something that's uniquely situated to serve that. It would potentially bring in hockey tournaments and other types of activities in the middle of winter time. One of the recent grants that the local hockey group was successful in receiving was actually more than they had requested. And the reason that group increased their support is they really did see this as a regional facility, especially for some of the hockey tournaments. And so it was nice to get confirmation from some of the messaging that we had looked at that this really could bring in some money for the community. The economic study that we looked at is if we were to hold just 2 regular hockey tournaments, not some of the big ones we've seen in other places, but 2 regular ones, that could have an economic impact of about $381,000. And it's something that we feel would be important for the community. I know through the multiple public presentations, both to the Recreation Board and to City Council, you've heard from all different types of users talk about what this facility means to them. And, you know, as I've talked to some of you, it's hard not to think, wow, this is a big project. This is something really big that we're biting off. And is this the right thing for the community? And after every time of listening to the people talk about what it means to them, it was something that was very reassuring and that we were headed on the right track. But I think something that council's been worried about is the cost. And can we do this within a reason that we feel we can afford as a community? With that, I'm going to let Pat review what bid we did receive. I do want to thank Pat and Harry, who's not here, for the amount of time that they have spent researching this, putting the package together with the engineer and architect and trying to get this to be the best facility we can that's still cost effective, and then really working with Alcon Construction to try to make it something that we feel we can afford. So Pat, if you want to review the submission.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Like she said, you guys gave us approval to have the facility designed by an architect. We went through different versions of scope and design with that, and went back and forth through a very iterative process to land on the design that was bid. We advertised the project for bid. We answered literally hundreds of questions. All of the contractors that were interested had good questions and productive questions, I think, that added value to the project. We were lucky to get a good bid from a local firm, and Alcon was gracious enough to deal with my constant phone calls saying, this is too much, this is not going to work. And as we worked through the process, we were able to get the bid price down to a point that when the bid price was included with our costs, we were at the revenue that was approved. The base bid, which is essentially the shell of a building, the chiller, and the ice rink, with a Zamboni room and a storage room. The base bid originally came in at $2.354 million. After value engineering and working back and forth with Alcon, we came back in, changing things like the roof, changing things like some of the structural members in the walls of the building, just doing things that reduced the price but didn't change the functionality of the facility or even really the looks of the facility. We were able to get that price down to $2.1 million, which when added to our little over $300,000 in costs, which includes our parking modifications, our parking expansion, architect, things like that, we were in where we needed to be. We also had them bid 3 different ad alternates. The first being bathrooms only, the second being locker rooms, and the third being the concession area and skate rental and stuff like that. Our recommendation tonight, after looking at the fund projections and things, is that you award what we're calling option 2, which includes the base bid plus the bathrooms and the locker rooms. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to.
And for us, it's somewhat of a modified option 2 in that we would take one of those locker rooms and repurpose it for the skate checkout and those types of things. So then we would still have 4 locker rooms, but we're able still to capture maybe a concession stand, skate checkout, that type of thing as well by repurposing one of the locker rooms.
Yeah, thank you. And we've run that by park staff, and they feel confident that would work.
Councilor Vigil.
Thank you, Mayor. The last time we talked about this, I think some of us have also made it known that if we go ahead with this project, it needs to have bathrooms and locker rooms. Such a facility, just bare bones, I don't think is good enough, and I believe we should look at the bathrooms and locker rooms option. I think it's also, I need to clear something up. I've also said publicly that if the project came in at $2.5 million or more, I would be against it. I did a poor job of communicating that What I really meant to say was that if it's, how much the city will pay out of pocket. And if we go with option 2, the city will pay less than 2.5, even though the total project cost is 2.8, we would make that up through $610,000 worth of grant money plus $22,000 from sponsors. I do agree with Ruthie Brown that we need to really promote this in the wintertime to all kids and all people in our community, and we need to provide them opportunities that other kids would have if they so choose to play hockey in that. Also, I see the benefits of what this can bring to our city during summer months, because this is a multi-use facility, not just a hockey rink. Thank you.
Councilor Stefano.
I think 3 options here. It would be pretty useless to build this without bathrooms and lockers, from my estimation. I've been involved in this project from the beginning, and I really believe that without a vision, people perish. This is designed to not only help benefit the city, but also the kids that are out there. We need places for the kids. We keep talking about the children, the children. So I believe, I agree with Ruthie Brown, what she said about this should be a facility for all kids, whether they can afford it or not. Somehow, we need to find a way, when this comes to reality, that these kids that are low income and stuff can have the benefit of using these facilities. I've been for the project from the get-go, and I'm glad we're finally coming down to a realization that it might happen, and I'm excited for it. Thank you.
Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's no secret to anyone that I've struggled with the amount that we were planning to finance. I'm the one who asked about no bathrooms, so I'll just be clear about that so everybody knows. Because this is a big deal. I appreciated what Ms. Brown said earlier. I do think that our Parks and Rec staff does a fantastic job making sure youth have access to the services and supports that they need, and I've been assured by our team that that will not change in the scope of this project, and so I appreciate that a lot. Similar to Councilor Vigil, I was not wanting the city to finance as much as possible. I struggle with that. That's my personal struggle as a representative of my community. But I think that what I have seen with the base bid, the engineering, the back and forth, the conversations I've had with family members, with youth who are interested in doing, continuing these services, with people who are interested in doing presentations and community activities in the summer, I'm much more in support of this, especially option 2, because the amount financed is less than what we had talked about, the city financing at 2.5 or 2.48, whatever we agreed to. The last 100,000, I think, sometimes gets lost in my head. But the 2.2 million that the city is able to finance, with the way our revenue projections are going, with what our finance director has assured us, with working with the other grants and things that we have, I'm much more comfortable with this project than I was. I appreciate both the engineering of looking at the different options and going back and forth, and not just coming to us with a presentation that was beyond the scope that we had spoken about. So I appreciate that a lot. Pat and Heather, you've done a lot of work on that, and that means a lot to me. I think it means a lot to our community. So with that, I am in support of option 2 as well, which I think we've been talking about, but knowing that I wouldn't have been if all of this work and energy hadn't gone in, and if we hadn't heard from the community members that we heard from. That made a huge difference for me.
Councilor Hensley.
So I'm also in support of option 2. I've probably been one of the ones that have been on the more supportive side since the beginning. Not saying I haven't paid attention to the costs and things like that. I think one of the things, I may not have verbalized this, but I envisioned from the beginning was that idea that this was going to be something for all people. I'm going to tell a quick little story. When I first moved here about 20 years ago, I was a single mom with 2 kids, definitely in the low-income category. And we lived in Del Norte, and one of the things that they did there is they had the 4-day weeks, and my kids had the opportunity to go skiing at a very low cost on a few Fridays a year. They did a partnership with Wolf Creek. And there's no way I could have afforded to have my kids go skiing, but because of this partnership. So from day one, when we spoke about this, and I know when Rob Pickett and I spoke and things like that, I truly envisioned what a great opportunity to have all kids have opportunity to skate, to try out hockey. It may not be something they'll do all their life, but they can say they've done it. And so I was already envisioning partnerships with the Boys and Girls Club, all sorts of things like that. I already get excited thinking about it. And then the idea when we go into the all-purpose side, I sort of envisioned some roller skating. There's all sorts of things that we can do. Being from California originally, one of the things when we came here, there's not a whole lot of places to roller skate. So how great would it be to have a roller skating rink, and with the same idea of offering this to all kids. So again, I just kind of wanted to reinforce that, and Ruthie, just to reinforce what you're looking for, I'm on that page 100%, and I know I'll do everything I can. I don't think I'm going to have to do anything to campaign for it, but I know that I think we're all on that same page. So what a great, and then also economically, what a great opportunity for our community. I think we've really, what Heather's proposed as numbers are so below what is actually the potential it can have.
Very good. Councilor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, and thank you, Pat and Heather, and thank you for all of our community members who came out here tonight in support. This multi-purpose center, it's a big deal for Alamosa, but it's huge for the San Luis Valley, because now people from all around the San Luis Valley will have an opportunity to come to Alamosa and utilize our facilities. It's important in another area too, economically. Just like Heather mentioned earlier, just by hosting a couple tournaments a year, it has the potential to generate a little bit over $381,000 in revenue to our city, which will help our businesses. It also is great for the businesses and the Alcon Construction, who hopefully, if this passes today, will have an opportunity to build a facility. Here's why that's important. Alcon hires people throughout the San Luis Valley, as well as people who live in Alamosa City and also Alamosa County. By them hiring those people, that money circulates through our community many times over, and that benefits our city greatly. The other good thing about this multi-purpose center is for our hockey team. I've had a fortunate opportunity to see them play this winter, and a lot of people don't know, but the rink that we have here in Alamosa right now, it's not regulation size. It's small. It's smaller than what the competition is. So when they go to play on a regulation size rink, they have a disadvantage because now they have to adjust their players in different, I guess, spacing because of the size of the rink that they practice on a daily basis. So now they have a regulation size rink. The other good thing about having a regulation size rink is that now people from other parts of the community in their league will want to come to Alamosa and play. In the past, they had problems with getting people to want to come to Alamosa because of the condition. Now, the condition of the rink was not safe as it should be. It was safe enough to play, and it was okay. But unfortunately for our team, and I'm a team type of person, our team only had maybe a month last year to play on the ice. How can they be competitive if they don't have ice for at least 3 to 5 months? With this multi-purpose center, it would give us that opportunity for our team to be competitive, give our team the opportunities to where they can get a lot of practice in, and also give our team everything that they need to make sure that they have a competitive edge. So, Council, I know we're going to discuss this in a little bit. I looked at the option. I think our team has done a great job at looking at what's important. And what's important is, it is important that we have bathrooms and locker room. And I like the idea to where we're going to make some arrangements to where we can still look at option number 2 and have the potential of having a concession area as well. So hopefully when we finish this conversation, we'll be making a positive vote for this multi-purpose rink.
Councilor Griego.
I wasn't going to say much, but I decided to make a couple of comments. I too was very vocal about this. I supported the idea strongly, but the fluctuation of the price is up and down. One day it would be this much, and then it would go up, and then, so I'm glad to see that they finally got the numbers put together, and that also that we got a local bidder where if this goes through, that money will stay here in the valley. And hopefully when we put this fund package together, if it goes through, that we use our finance people here. I know this last time we weren't able to use them, but that we use our banks here. So once again, that money stays here and it gets put back into our economy and so forth. So the idea is good, and I'm glad to see that the numbers are put together. And I thank Pat and Heather for the job that they've done. It's been a long deal, and hopefully it'll work out. Thank you.
Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add one more thing about the cash flow over a 20-year period. It does appear that the Recreation Fund and the Conservation Trust Fund can support the financing. We do have the Inspire grant commitment as well, and so there could be options for council in the future should we need to, if it doesn't bring in revenue or things like that, where we would have to not pay ourselves, so it's paying the city, it's not paying anyone else or anything that we owe, while we're getting our fund back up to where it needs to be. But that would only happen if needed. But I wanted to make sure everybody understood that as we go through this and are financing this amount of if we choose to finance the 2.2 million, that would happen later on during this process, only if our revenues don't increase as much as we anticipate they will.
And those worst-case projections have it limited to just maybe a 4-year time frame, and that money would then also be paid back afterwards.
Thank you, Heather, for that clarification. But I appreciated the work and I appreciated the honesty, and I just think it's really important that everyone in the community knows that we're looking at that as well and being really transparent with how we're doing that.
It's obvious that staff has found a way to make this thing happen financially, and that's what worried quite a few of us on council. Moving Alamosa forward requires faith, requires courage, and it requires vision. Alamosa has been faced with facilities that have been failing over many, many years, and we see a lot of facilities being replaced. Present day, the Justice Center, and they have been in a sense challenged by many issues specific to money, but somehow or other it's going to happen out there, and it's to the benefit of all of us in the valley. Kicking the can down the road's not going to help us. If we don't do it now, it's going to cost us more in the future. Even in 2 or 3 years, I'm sure interest rates are going to go up. Costs of materials are going to go up. So at the present time, we have a package that is doable. It's something that I think we can all put our head and hands around and join hands in and say, let's do this for the benefit, maybe of not the next year or two, but for the folks that are going to come after us, our kids, our children, our grandchildren, and maybe even further down the road. My hope is that the facility will last many, many years, and that it's constructed well, and it's constructed with caring hands. The future will benefit from this, and so I, along with this council, think that option 2 is probably the best option that we can entertain at this point in time. Councilor Vigil.
Thank you, Mayor. Then I proudly move that we award the bid in the amount of $2,890,407, option 2, to include bathroom and locker rooms for the ice rink.
I second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the award of bid to Alcon Construction for the multi-use facility ice rink?
Option 2 is $2,560,907. So you said option 2, but then you accidentally read the option 1 bid amount.
Yeah, I think Alcon would
Oh,
like that.
total project,
cost.
okay, okay.
The motion stands?
Yes, sorry.
Is there any further discussion?
One quick question. When do you expect on breaking ground and completion?
We still have some discussions to have with the contractor. Hopefully, we can get started soon. What this award will allow, I'm still waiting for a little bit of warranty information from them, just a couple of different little items. But this will allow them to get the order placed for the steel for the building and for the chiller. The chiller has, if I remember correctly, has a 15-week lead time, and then it has a 30-day period to cool that concrete for the first time. So we need to get that. We need to get that chiller ordered.
And to clarify, apparently I was right, the Alcon award amount is $2,560,907. I didn't catch what number you read, but the award should be 2.5.
I'm reading option 2. It says total project cost 2.890407.
The award to Alcon is 2.5. It's right underneath.
Just to clarify, that total project cost includes costs that are going to be funded or going to be paid out of city funds, not to Alcon, but to other vendors for various things, splash boards and I don't know what all, but other things other than the bid that's being awarded tonight.
Those additional costs include the dasher boards, includes a parking lot expansion, includes utility costs, spectator seating, architect and engineering fees, things like that.
Councilor Vihil, does that satisfy your?
Yes.
Okay. I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Pat. And thank you, staff, for everything you've done. And Alcon Construction, our fate is in your hands. And we know you're going to do a good job. You've been here forever and ever. Thank you.
Can I add something?
All right.
Can I add something?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
I'm really looking forward, I see the date is December 31st. I'm looking forward to an awesome New Year's party.
That's what we're shooting for.
Thank you, Council. We will now move on to Resolution Number 13-2017 in support of the installation of an Adams State University monument sign celebrating the university and its achievements on city property in a city gateway adjacent to U.S. Highway 160 and authorizing execution of an encroachment permit for that sign. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, sir. Almost a year ago, we were approached by the university and a couple of community stakeholder groups for the installation of a monument sign. They were looking for a good, highly visible place to put it. The sign will celebrate Adams State running program and all of its achievements and different individuals that have contributed so greatly to it. We've gone back and forth with different locations. We finally decided that the most visible and best place to put it would be right there across from the pavilion. And they've surveyed the property, they've gotten CDOT approval, and the last step in the process is your approval of this resolution.
Mayor.
Thank you, Pat. Councilor Grego?
I had a question. This sign, Pat, is it both sides?
Yes, sir.
It's just not a one-sided deal?
It's both sides. It'll be sitting perpendicular to traffic,
Okay.
so you'll be able to see it go in either direction.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Councilor Vihil?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we all know that Adams State has a storied tradition of running cross-country, track. I think this is awesome. You see this in a lot of towns across our country, city of this, home of that. I think this is really cool. It'll add a little flair to our city. I'm all for this.
Councilor Coleman?
Thank you, Mayor. I really do like this sign. I had a chance to talk earlier with Larry, and he wanted to let everyone know that the college is extremely busy this week hosting a lot of students from different parts of the state. So he was not able to make it here. He really wanted to be here. But I told him we would talk about this tonight, and all the council members would have an opportunity to vote on this, and he shared information in the package that you have here. What I like about that sign, it really talks about Alamosa being the city of champions, and we are the city of champions, and I really think this is going to be a positive benefit and a positive image for the people who are coming to ASU and the people who are coming to visit our city. And Pat, I think you all did a great job of figuring out where you want to place this, because I like the placement of where you have here, because it looks like you can see it when you come over the bridge and right when you're going back the other way as well. So great job with you and your team walking through it to figure out where's the best place for this sign.
Yeah, I think that was a team effort. We went back and forth with several possibilities.
Very good. Councilor Hensley.
I'm also very supportive of this. I remember, I'm trying to think how long ago it was, but when Larry Mortensen and Damon Martin first sort of came up with this idea. And I don't think when they first thought of this, they realized, especially getting the CDOT approval, all of the sort of hoops they'd have to jump through. And so I commend them, I commend you for helping them go through this, and staff. And I look at that, obviously, probably one of the biggest is getting that CDOT approval. And now that we've got this, we're on our home stretch. So thank you.
Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. I am very much in support of this and celebrating Adams State. I don't know if anybody else was planning to speak, but I would move that we approve Resolution 13-2017 in support of the installation of an Adams State University monument sign on city property in a city gateway, and authorize the execution of an encroachment permit for the sign.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second on Resolution 13-2017. Is there any further discussion? I'll only say that we've always wanted to be a city where runners come to train, and that dream is still out there. So I'm in support of this as well. Got a motion and a second? Start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move on to consideration of request from Alamosa County to waive a total of $28,500 in plant investment fees for the new Justice Center and expansion of the county jail. Ms. Heather?
Thank you, Mayor. This is an item that in the past has come before council. The plant investment fee is intended to help the infrastructure be able to take on the new load that will be coming on with the development. It supports the infrastructure, the maintenance, operational costs of the city-operated utilities. These fees are charged in order to prevent the established ratepayers from having to absorb even more of it. It's in a way having development pay its way and its impact on the system. In the past, from a philosophical perspective, staff has recommended denial of this in regards to, we feel that the cost should be spread among all the county residents instead of just the city residents. But historically, council has allowed the waiver, and they have approved those requests when the county has come forward with them. And we wanted to make that clear so council was clear what history has been here for this item. There is something this time around that slightly alters the situation, and that is in regards to the unresolved discussions we've had with the county regarding the airport parking lot. At our most recent joint meeting, it was made clear that they most likely will not have funds to be able to pave it to meet the standards that the city has. There was some question at that point in time exactly what the code was and what would suffice and not, but the city attorney did provide language to help clarify that. With that still being unresolved, we feel that it might be prudent that if council was inclined to do the waiver, that they may want to have that be contingent upon the parking lot being constructed per those specifications. This is clearly something that was not included in the council communication, and so if it catches anyone off guard, we apologize for that. We did yesterday send an email to the county administrator, both with this communication clarification and a bit of a heads up that this might be what staff is getting ready to say, because as we anticipate, it's probably not something that they would be very favorable, and we didn't want them to be caught by surprise either. I do believe we have some county representatives if council has any questions regarding this matter. Pat, did I leave anything out in regards to this?
I think you covered it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. When, and I apologize because I was not here maybe for the food bank one, when we waived the tap fees in the past, was it a similar request like this, Pat, or is this pretty standard?
This is pretty standard.
Okay, thank you.
And you have approved those waivers in the past.
Councilor Griego.
Well, I appreciate staff's recommendations, but in the past, we have worked with the county. We represent some of the same people. We might not represent outside of the county, but we represent the same people. And when you discuss tagging something onto this, I totally disagree with it, because they're two separate issues. You know, this is a plant investment fee, and the other one's a parking lot. If council wants to continue dealing with the parking lot, have another work session, do something. But I think today, what we need to look at is just at this plant investment fee and deal with that. And like I said, history says that we work together, and I hope we continue to work together, because we represent the same people. And I am totally in favor of waiving this amount that not only help the county, but help the people that we represent. Thank you.
Councilor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. Heather, maybe you can help me out with this. Looks like in 2015, we waived about $6,250 on the annex building, right? Am I right with that?
Yes, sir.
But this year, they're looking at $28,500. That's a huge difference. Can you explain to me what the difference is? And
Pat, that might be better explained by you.
The difference is in the size of the taps. When a new development or a new tap comes online, say for the Justice Center, they basically make two taps on our water main. One for fire control that goes into a utility room that's not metered. That's not water they use for their everyday purposes. That's there for emergencies. We don't meter that water. We don't charge for that tap. The other is their daily use water, basically. So based on the size of the tap, our ordinance dictates a cost per tap based on that size. So because of the differences in tap sizes is the difference in cost.
okay, and Heather, from what you're saying is that we could possibly waive this $28,500 for the county, and correct me if I'm wrong with this, but what you're saying is we could waive it contingent upon them meeting the city's code requirements, because right now the airport parking lot does not meet the code requirements. Is that what you're saying?
So I'm going to answer that in two ways. The first one is to try to clarify what options council has tonight. Council could waive the entire $28,500 with no contingencies, just to award the request from the county. Council could waive a portion of the $28,500. Council could decide not to waive any of it at all. And then the last option that we brought up, which is a bit different, is that you could decide to waive the $28,500 contingent upon the construction of the airport parking lot to city standards. The concern that city staff has had is we understand that the county is looking at different areas for funding and really needing to find some funds to pull off a very good building and those types of things. We've been open to the size of the airport parking lot not being built to the plans that were submitted. We've communicated that we're okay if it's on a smaller scale, as long as it's meeting the, I think, 55 spaces.
I think so.
Somewhere between 50, 55. It's in a memo that's been submitted. As long as it has the right number of spaces. I think some of the confusion was starting to become this focus on if it's dustless, and that's where they thought maybe this chip seal would satisfy that. Unfortunately, that doesn't, because the other part of the code is the durable, and that's where the chip seal does not satisfy that part of the requirement. We haven't heard anything back from the county in regards to if they feel that they're going to be able to meet that. The last indication we had was from the joint meeting, and that the only funds they had available would be for chip seal, which does not meet the code requirements. Unfortunately, the only way we would have, if they don't voluntarily comply with this, which we would always hope from another local government partner, the only alternatives we would have is to either remove the certificate of occupancy, which shuts down the airport, and I'm not sure anybody wants to do that, or we would need to look at legal action, which again is not something that I think is very positive for our community. And so from a city perspective, we're not left with what we feel are really good, viable alternatives if our partner decides not to comply with our codes. And so that's why we thought this might be something that we take a look at.
Okay, so from what I'm reading, staff recommends that we deny it or either come to some type of common ground, maybe with a contingency, or approve it, maybe.
This is one that we wanted to make sure you guys understood the history of that you have approved them in the past. The only thing that staff saw that might be different this year is these other issues that we have going on. Council may not feel that they need to be connected, as Mr. Grego has indicated, but we are going to have some of those other discussions, and the alternatives don't seem very positive.
Here's my concern. Other developers, they come into our community and they ask for things like this, and if I'm not mistaken, Pat, we don't really just waive fees for developers when they come in. Am I correct, or am I mistaken?
The fees for our utilities are based on two different numbers, basically. We have a tap fee that's designed to cover our cost if we make the physical tap into our main for their property, for their development. We waive that fee. That's an administrative waiver if they do that work themselves. If it's at no cost to the city, we don't charge them for it. The planned investment fee is another thing that's not, I can't waive that administratively. That has to happen through council. You guys have reserved that power for yourself. Typically, in my experience, since I've been with the city, the only real waivers that you've done with any kind of consistency at all are the county and Habitat for Humanity.
So in essence, by waiving this fee, we're really doing the county a favor, if I'm correct, right? As far as saving them some funds on this project.
You'll be saving the county $28,500.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Stefano.
I agree with Mr. Grego. I think that the parking lot is a total separate entity, and I believe that the county will eventually take care of it. I believe that at this point, the awarding the tap fees for them, I believe, will benefit us in the long run. I believe that our municipal courts have struggled with people going into the jail from our facility here, from courts here. So I believe in the long run, it's going to turn around and we're going to get probably reimbursed in a way for doing this for the county. Maybe they'll give us a break on housing our clients or inmates in the jail. That's my belief. Thank you.
Councilor Vihil.
Thank you, Mayor. Question, Pat, and I have a question and a few comments, so just bear with me, please. The Pink Elephant property right now, what's on there? What is that? Is that road base? Is that chip seal? What is that?
That's asphalt millings.
Asphalt millings. Is that similar to what the county wants to do out at the airport?
At the last request I saw, that was
It was.
similar. Well, no, that was a discussion at first, and now the last I've heard, they were going to pave the 55 spaces.
Okay. Okay, so will it be similar to what we have right now at the Pink Elephant?
So the millings, do we have millings out at the Pink Elephant?
Yes.
The point is, the Pink Elephant is not a parking lot.
I understand that.
Okay, so there wasn't code issues, but
I understand.
yes, it is what is out there. And the reason, did you see those dips in the Pink Elephant? That's where the durable, we feel that it doesn't meet the durable definition.
And the Pink Elephant also gets a lot more cars than what the airport gets. But I agree with what Mr. Grego says. We serve the same people. And City Manager, you said that the county has some issues finding monies to fund all their new buildings and that. Well, if we don't approve this, we're putting them in the hole more. So I think this is a separate issue. I think I take the county at their word. We've had discussions with them that they've said they're going to take care of this, and I think they're going to come through.
Councilor Hensley.
So I definitely want to have the partnership with the county. I have concerns over the parking lot. I know that other organizations have tried to open businesses, whether it be in our downtown area and stuff, and parking has really become the issue of opening those businesses where they actually can't open them or they aren't able to go any further. I am a little torn. I definitely want to do the partnership. I do feel that that they should have had the $28,000 set aside to pay for this when they did their bidding. My thought at least is that they could put the $28,000 towards the parking. And I don't remember what the numbers are that are for the parking, but I think having some sort of commitment like that would be a good thing. And again, I'm not sure where the numbers fall on this. And I look at it, it's the bigger picture. One thing I will say, the airport gets a ton of parking. I used to work for the airlines, and there is a ton of parking that happens there. But I just want it, like I say, I get that the county is struggling a bit with the funding for that, but we need to make it happen. And so we have to get in compliance there. And I don't want it to get messy. And so I don't know, do we have an idea of the numbers of what that parking lot was going to cost?
If don't quote me, if I remember correctly, my estimate was just north of 100,000.
Okay, and then how much about was the money that they're going to be able to put towards the compromise they were trying to do?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so I'm not sure if that with this 28,000 might make it happen. And so, and again, I don't know any of those answers, so that would be something I guess I would have liked to have looked at or something like that, or maybe even that rediscussion. And I know it's two separate issues, but in a sense, we're giving something. I'd kind of like to see a time frame or what's going to happen. Again, I don't want to say that we're set on the mud, but we have to make that happen, and how is that going to happen? So that's just sort of my feedback.
In regards to a time frame, my understanding of what the county administrator shared during the joint meeting was that the millings was still going to happen this year, which was the priority that council had, is they wanted the airport parking lot to get done this year. So the timing doesn't necessarily seem to be an issue if they still do that. The question is if they do the plan, it's not compliant with what the code was, which is the communication we had up to that point that they had said they would meet.
I've got Councilor Hensley still has the floor.
So I just have a question on that. If they do the milling and then later come back and do it compliant, is that throwing some money away?
Pat, do you want to go ahead and explain how the millings and then what the normal construction would look like?
It would depend what they would put in their base course. If they left their base course unimproved, they could turn the millings into the native soil and incorporate the millings into the base, which would reduce the amount of a class 5 or class 6 material that they would need under it, so that, depending on how they did it and how they sequenced it, they could they could use it as a part of the future parking lot.
Councilor Daniel.
Thank you. I don't want to get overly convoluted, because I do think that there are two issues that are happening here. I think the other piece is this is a huge project for the county, and the point that I am struggling more with has to go in with what the city's residents are paying for. And so this wasn't one of the options that you presented, but I'm going to ask if it's doable. Would it be possible to do a portion of the cost that we approve and say, we'll waive $16,000, and then the other $12,000 is to the county, to limit the impact on our residents as city only, they're city and county residents, so I don't know how that kind of shakes out, but something like that, is that a possibility?
So yes, and so to kind of clarify why staff has been consistent on the philosophical side of it is someone's going to have to bear the cost of the $28,500. And that can either be our 9,000 citizens and it's spread among 9,000, or it can be spread among the 15,000, which obviously still includes our 9. But when you limit it, then that's when our city residents are carrying the bigger burden by that. So one of the options we did mention is you could waive a portion of it. So if you want to have 14,000 of it be what the county pays, then we would waive the remaining portion of it. So you could come up with any number that you want for that.
And I was thinking something along those lines, because I do think that 28.5 is significant for the county with where they're at, but it's also significant for what the city is responsible for in having the plant investment fees and knowing where our plant's at and knowing that we still need to make some adjustments to that. And so I would be more in support of a split, whether that's 14,250 because then it's right in the middle, or 16 for us because we have more residents in the city. I would be supportive of that if we could agree on that as a council potentially. I don't like having it contingent on the parking lot, from my personal opinion, because I do feel like that convolutes the issue of what they're asking for this time. And so while I understand and I think it's a reasonable request, I don't know that that's something that I could support.
Councilor Griego.
When we use the term county, we're talking about the same people we represent. County residents come to the city to spend their money. We live off sales tax. So they're paying for it eventually by spending their money in the city limits. And with that, I'm going to make a motion right now that the city waive the total $28,500 in planned investment fees for the new Justice Center and expansion of the county jail with no contingencies on it.
Councilor, I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yes.
Councilor Hensley.
So I actually kind of agree listening to everybody. I don't want to, I probably with that too, let's not combine the two things. But I guess I kind of missed that in the beginning. Excuse me, in the sense that we'll brunt the burden of this. How would this come, so if we went ahead with the 28,000, how would that money actually come about? Yeah.
So the cost is based on what the impact is going to be on the existing infrastructure. So any repairs, the extra utilities, the chemicals, those types of things, we just wouldn't be bringing in as much for that extra load as what another developer would be paying for.
And so, and I know this is really hard to see. So this is money when developers develop something, this money is brought in, and it's with the idea because it is adding to then the burden of all of our infrastructure. And so when we take that money in, it's the idea of sort of putting it aside or having that set aside. So as this infrastructure is used more, we then have that reserve to pay for those things.
As development puts a bigger strain on our utilities, as it puts a bigger strain on the water plant, on the wastewater plant, that's what that plant investment fee is designed to cover. It's the money's collected. It's a way of forcing development to pay for itself. We don't have impact fees. We don't have things that a lot of other communities have. So we don't have a lot of ways to make development pay for itself. And these funds come in, they go into the general, or into the enterprise fund balance, and they go to cover costs of everything enterprise fund, whether it's water rights for the augmentation plan or chemicals or, whatever we need it for, it's there for.
And how do you, again, I know you're looking into your magic ball. What's that impact? Are you going to feel that impact of not having that money in there and the added use to the infrastructure?
Well, I think with the condition of the enterprise fund, we feel every lack of revenue we get. We're not, that fund isn't flush. That's why we had to go through and look at our cost of service and our rates recently. We haven't seen the benefits of those increases yet. We won't for a while because we have big capital improvement needs. So it's revenue that's not there.
Okay. I think I'm kind of with Councilor Daniel. I don't think I'm going to nickel and dime it, but I think I'd almost be with the idea of a two-third split, 2/3 for the city, 1/3 for the county. Just so, again, it is that partnership and us working together would be sort of my thoughts.
Councilor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have issues when an organization doesn't follow our codes. It sets the wrong precedents. And that's my big issue. And I understand the county, you're going to try to do your best to make the parking lot look okay. I believe Alamosa should always take pride in what we do, and we should do things first class. I don't think we should have a second-class parking lot. And I understand the reason why we are not going to try to convolute this by mixing the parking lot with this contingency and this the waiving of fees. But I do want the county to know that it would be greatly appreciated if you did step up the type of construction that you're going to do in the parking lot, because when people come into our town, the parking lot is something that they see as well. I would love to see them walk into a first-class facility like they have in the airport. You invested lots of money in making one beautiful airport. I don't think we should start cutting corners now, but that's your budget. On the other hand, I understand they're building the new complex and the facilities, and right now, unfortunately for them, their cost has risen quite a bit. And I can understand how waiving this fee would help them in the overall completion of the project, but I wouldn't be a good city council if I didn't point out how important it is to follow codes requirements that we have, and for us to allow them to get by without completing the parking lot to code, that would be negligent on our part. So that's why I'm making the comments that I'm making right now.
Thank you, Councilman Coleman. Thank you, Council. I didn't really have an opportunity to weigh in on this issue, but I'm not going to push and shove the county in any way, shape, or form. As far as I'm concerned, these are two separate issues. In the past, we have historically allowed the county the waiving of many of these fees. And not too long ago, the only requirement we had for them was to come before council to ask for them or for us to waive those fees. That was the only requirement that I remember ever being made on the county specific to any kind of fees. We have historically done that. I don't see why we should stop. I don't see why we should tie it to any wheeling and dealing in any way, shape, or form. I think the parking lot at the airport is a totally different issue that needs to be resolved in different ways, and administrations can do that. If they can't do that, then we can do that as elected officials. My feeling is these are two separate issues, and so that's my take. And so with that, if there's no further discussion, I will entertain the vote. Start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried 5-2 with Councilors Daniel and Councilor Hensley casting the no votes.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. And we will now move on to the permitted use by special review, request of vertical construction management on behalf of Starbucks to allow outdoor dining in a commercial business district. Pat?
Thank you, sir. This is a pretty common request of you these days. Vertical Construction Management has requested consideration for permitted use by special review to allow outdoor dining in a commercial business district. The proposed location for the activity will be near the northwest. We're rolled, but you can see it's kind of the upper right-hand corner of the building in that plan. It'll be towards the northwest corner of the building on a patio. It's well removed from public streets as well as public sidewalks. It should pose no interference to pedestrian activity, no danger from motorists. And like we said, this is a common practice in town these days, and everybody seems to like it. We've actually had a couple of cities call lately to ask us how it works for us. They've noticed it as they come, as the city manager of Gunnison called me a few weeks ago and said that they were thinking about doing it, and he noticed that he actually ate dinner at the brew pub on the sidewalk, and he wanted to know how we had it set up and how it worked for us, and seems to be pretty popular. So, and this was unanimously recommended by the Planning Commission.
Pat, two questions for you.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if this is the proper time to ask this question, but how will this affect the Starbucks in Safeway?
I don't know how it'll affect it. They were made aware of the proximity to the other Starbucks, and it didn't seem to bother them, as I understand it. This is a corporately, yeah, it's a whole different set of developers, a whole different set of owners, and I think it's a franchise where it's set up differently than Safeway is.
Okay, and then my next question is that to the east of that proposed area is Sonic, and then east of there is the liquor store. There's a lot of traffic goes through in there. Will traffic flow be okay in that area, coming off Main Street and then 6th Street?
They have worked through that process with CDOT. So they've been through the traffic studies. They have CDOT approval for the access point. There will be no direct access to the site from 6th Street, which I thought was disappointing. They're going to make people drive around, but it has been approved by CDOT.
So when you say
Councilor Hensley?
So when you say they're going to have to drive around, so are you saying, and I'm sorry, I don't know this street between Chief and Sonic, is that where they would have to drive around to go to?
Yeah, if you're eastbound on 6th, you're going to have to turn northeast of Sonic and come around, and they actually have an access easement through Sonic, so you could come out onto Main Street and turn into the Starbucks, or you can go through the Sonic parking lot to get there.
So they're gonna click, that Sonic parking lot's gonna open up?
Yes.
Because right now you can't drive through.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, I'm surprised. I just want to make sure, because I do know that road between Chief Liquor and Sonic can get a little messy and a little, how do you say, it, squiggly, and in the sense of even people trying to, like, people coming westbound, sort of scooting in there, people that are trying to get out after they leave Sonic, and sometimes they're trying to flip all the way over to Safeway, or even you get some of them that actually will take that little turn to go the wrong way down the one way to actually get across to that other street that's, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So you don't think that'll make it any worse, or it's not, I mean, it is what it is?
I think it is what it is. It's, at this point, if we want to try to fix that situation, we have to buy right away. We have to demolish buildings. We have to do something really creative and expensive. There's a lot of things about that site that I didn't think were ideal. I've been dealing with their site selectors and their engineers for over a year now, and it's been through 100 different variations. But I've never been able to get them to move to what I thought was a more appropriate location.
So what's your feelings on this?
I'm excited about it. I think it'll be good. We've reviewed the Planning Commission has approved the layout of the drive-through.
Okay.
they've made a lot of accommodations for us
Thank you.
in that respect.
I'm not sure if I understand this properly. Pat, you've got ingress and egress off of Main? Is that
Yes.
what you?
Yes.
And do you have ingress and egress off of 6th?
No.
No ingress or egress at all?
No. Eastbound
It's
6th
just-
Street will have to turn north between Sonic and the liquor store.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, kind of like they go to Sonic or go to the liquor store, yeah. What were the issues that prohibited us from having ingress off of 6th Street? Was it just the slant of the property, or?
I wasn't involved with their discussions with CDOT. I encouraged them for a very long time to continue those discussions, but they said that CDOT said no.
Okay.
And they weren't willing to push that issue.
Should they change their
Thank
mind
you.
in the future, though, adding an egress and ingress off of 6th Street is something that would fit with the design as well. Is that correct, Pat?
Yeah, they'll have to massage it a little bit, but it can work.
Yeah, I mean, it would only make sense. I mean, well,
It's
because I know
15,000
there's
cars
a
a day.
large slope there, Pat,
Yeah.
and of course, it would probably be problematic in the wintertime with snow and ice, but during the summer months, well, and then you're coming around that turn at 25 miles an hour, or you should be anyway. Okay, well, thank you, Pat. And it's nice to see a new business. I think we have about 2 or 3 businesses coming in, new buildings anyway. Appreciate that, Pat. Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. If there's no further discussion, I move that we approve the permitted use by special review, the request of Vertical Construction Management on behalf of Starbucks to allow outdoor dining in a commercial business district.
I second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Council. We'll move on now to first reading on ordinance number 15-2017, alley vacation, Block 1, Calabrese Edition. Pat, thank you.
Okay, this is another request on behalf of Starbucks. During the numerous replats and subdivisions of the old Safeway site, one half, if you look at the exhibit, one half of a landlocked alley still exists as a public alley. Somehow during all of the replatting and all of the subdivisions and all of the construction and all of the land use that's happened on that site, that little orphan alley there has been forgotten. And as a part of their application to consolidate the 2 lots that you see on that exhibit, I'm requesting permission to vacate that lot so that we can get both of those properties under one ownership, and they can go ahead and do their project. It's landlocked. There's no access to any point of the alley. There's no utilities in it.
Pat, you mentioned that there would only be one property owner benefiting from this vacation. Who would that property owner be? Or would
Well, right now, the vacation of the alley itself will go to the property on the right, the Lot 1 of the Sangre Tract replat, which is now owned by Sonic, which is who they are selling the property to Starbucks. After this alley vacation is complete, they will purchase Lot 12 of the Culbreth Edition from the owner, and then they will erase that lot line in between the 2, basically consolidating those lots to make one parcel that's big enough for their proposed project.
Thank you, Pat. Makes all the sense in the world, doesn't it?
Yes.
Councilor Vihil.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve ordinance number 15-2017 on first reading, vacating the remainder of the alley adjacent to the southwesterly corner of Lot 1 of the Sangre Tract replat in Block 1 of Calabrese Edition, and set it for public hearing at our next meeting, which is July 5th or soon thereafter.
Councilor Stefano.
I second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on ordinance number 15-2017? Seeing none, start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Council. We'll move on now to the award of bid for the ultraviolet disinfection unit. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, sir. As you remember from your retreat, we looked at pictures and we talked about the failing ultraviolet disinfection unit at the wastewater treatment plant. We contracted with TZA Water engineers out of Denver. They've done a lot of work for us out at the wastewater plant. They specialize in wastewater and water treatment and permitting. So they're always a big help on issues like this. We asked them to prepare kind of a technical memorandum outlining our options, doing the research, dealing with the distributors and the manufacturers to get us a list of possibilities for replacement equipment of that unit. They came up with 5 possible units that would meet the requirements of our flows, mostly meet the requirements of our discharge trough or trench inside the plant. We've weighed all of the advantages and disadvantages of each, including electrical cost, market share, everything like that. You can see the numbers came in everywhere from about 102,000 to 245,000 for units that would potentially work for us. We looked at all of them, and we decided on one to recommend. The one we'd like is $189,300. That's the Trojan system. In addition to their regional and nationwide reputation for advanced UV wastewater treatment, we liked them. They're currently installed in 5,200 municipal applications. That system right there is treating 24 billion gallons of water a day. They're well supported. They're well distributed. Parts are easy to come by. If we have a problem, there's certified service technicians in almost every city on the Front Range. So we think in the long run, it may be a little more expensive than some of them, but their proven service track record and their low electrical consumption pays for itself over the years.
Thank you, Pat. Any questions of Pat? Councilor Stefano.
Pat, the unit that you're talking about is going to cost $189,300?
Yes, sir.
And we have already allotted $200,000 for this project from once before, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councilor Hill.
We will have a little additional cost for installation on top of this, but we can't nail down the installation cost until we know what unit we're buying, because everything has its own little quirks when you go to put it in.
Councilor Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. No questions, but just I'm really glad to hear that there are technicians on the Front Range who can come and work on this.
I like that a lot.
We currently have to find a person from like Australia or New Zealand or something like that, you said, Pat?
We're lucky. We have one in the country. Okay. And we have to buy him an airplane ticket. We have to rent him a Mercedes-Benz in Denver to get him down here. He stays at the most expensive hotel in town, and I don't know where he eats, but he spends some money.
A Mercedes-Benz, Pat. We have to rent a Mercedes-Benz to get him here?
He doesn't go for the economy version, but that's what we have to do to get a service tech here to service our old equipment. And that's one thing that's nice about this. I told Heather, with all of the installations and the market share they have, you can almost buy parts for this at Walmart.
We desperately need this at our wastewater treatment plant, so thank you for your work on this, Pat.
Councilor Stefano.
I move that we award this replacement for the Trojan as recommended.
I second.
Councilor, do we need a monetary limit on this?
Well, I think that's specified in the proposal for the Trojan, so Councilor
Thank you, Eric.
is fine.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move on to police. We've got a first reading on ordinance number 14-2017, and ordinance approving the intergovernmental agreement with State of Colorado Department of Higher Education by and through the State Board of Community Colleges and Occupational Education for the use and benefit of Trinidad State Junior College to provide security services for the Trinidad State Alamosa campus from the Alamosa Police Department. Ms. Heather?
Thank you, Mayor. Several months ago, Dr. Simone was present to discuss this idea that they approached the city with. It's very similar to what they have created with the City of Trinidad, whereas they partner with that police department in order to provide a school resource officer or school security officer. It's something that both the City of Trinidad and Trinidad State Junior College felt benefited both agencies. It allowed the police department to have that extra officer should they get a major call or to spread some of the workload, and it allowed Trinidad State Junior College to have someone that's skilled and trained at the level of a police officer and bring that professionalism to the job. I think the success they saw there was something they wanted to mirror here in the Valley, and I think it's something, as the chief and I have talked, that we would see the similar benefits, that it would allow for us to use that resource officer maybe for some of our case writing or some of those types of tickets. They could also do the patrols for parking and stuff around the campus, and obviously if we get a major call, they could be dispatched to that as well. At the same time, Trinidad State Junior College would have a highly skilled officer. They would also help do training for staff in regards to coordinated emergency response and those types of activities as well. It is something that the contract is structured to have the full cost covered by Trinidad State Junior College. We are fine-tuning a little bit of the language in there in regards to if their payments get a little bit ahead, we may reimburse it or look at a few things like that. But the majority of the contract is as it stands and is ready for first reading. If we have any tweaks, we can make you guys aware of that before the second reading.
Thank you, Heather. Councilor Hill.
Thank you. Heather, would TSJC do the hiring, or would our police department do the hiring?
So this will be a city employee. So we will be 100% responsible for the hiring, training, doing the evaluations, setting goals, all of that. They will be a city employee.
Okay. Councilor Griego.
I guess a question for the city manager. Are we up to full staff with our police department? I know that we were...
We had some leave, but we have gone through a hiring process.
Okay.
And so once they come on, we'll be fully staffed. Now, fully staffed, I say loosely, because they still have the FTO program to go through, but we at least have the number of FTEs on board that we would need.
How will this affect it, hiring a person for the college?
Well, given council's positive reaction when Dr. Simone was here, we included that as part of our recent advertisement.
Okay.
And has found someone that's interested. So we'll be able to move quickly with this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. Then I move that we approve ordinance number 14-2017 and set it for a public hearing on July 5th, 2017, or soon thereafter.
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on ordinance number 14-2017? Seeing none, start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Parks and Recreation. Tonight we have a discussion of the ranch lease agreement. And this is Ms. Heather.
Thank you, Mayor. Several meetings ago, Councilor Griego brought up the idea that really since we did the lease in 2012, we hadn't looked at this to see if we felt there needed to be changes and/or a potential competitive process. The item you see before you tonight is just to help bring council up to date on what that lease looks like. It is something that we entered into, Mr. Alan Simpson in 2012. It automatically renews unless either party provides notice. The lease provides that Mr. Simpson pays $10,000 annually and also maintains the property in accordance with the lease agreement. The lease period is April 1st through March 31st. Should we desire to terminate the lease, it does require that we provide 180 days prior to the lease renewal. And if you wanted us to do a competitive process, we would recommend doing that in August so we could meet that notification should Mr. Simpson not be awarded the renewal. And so with that in mind, I'll turn it over for council questions.
Thank you, Councilor Griego.
2 comments, and the reason I brought this up was 2 reasons. First, I was approached by several people that said, well, does this go out for bid? And I said, well, it renews until somebody asks about it. So, and secondly, we wanted to speak to the leasing, to see how things are going out there. Are things, what's happening out there? I know he's been doing a lot of work out there. He's maintained that ranch pretty good. But those are the 2 reasons why I said, well, let's at least look at it. And it hadn't been looked at in a lot of years, so thank you.
Councilor Griego, did you want to ask any questions of the leasing?
Well, yeah, if Mr. Allen wants to come up and...
Mr. Allen...
I hate to put him in a spot, but I...
If you have a couple of minutes, I think council would be interested in what your take is on out at the ranch. Thank you for being here, sir.
Ellen, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but it's good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Start off.
I think it's important for you to realize that we don't see you that often, and it's really nice to at least see you once a year, if that's possible. Thank you for being here.
Cleaned up, right? Anyway, I've been involved in this thing for like almost 20 years now. I think Mary Burvig was the original one, and then there's been Kathy Rogers and Joseph and numerous, Mike Hackett, yeah. Nathan Trapesky and Heinz Bergman, and I've always had a good rapport with all of them, and City Council as well. So anyway, I have to say that it's been a privilege, and a love of labor and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm happy where I'm at. Continue. I'm willing to discuss any changes you'd like to make, or I would like to maybe mention that the annual payment was split up like $5,000 in April and $5,000 in September. So they've always been timely, and there's never been a problem with the payments. And I do have a partner, Mr. Darius Allen. He's an equal partner. And he's kind of a silent, he likes to be the silent guy, but he's always around. And actually, and then my son was originally Cleve. So anyway, any questions? I don't know.
Councilor Vigil.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Can you tell us specifically what you do out there?
Just about everything. Well, it's a water situation all the time. And rotation and fencing and improvements is what my main goal is, to constantly, you can't do it all in 1 year. And they do, the city does provide like $5,000 a year, and I furnish all the labor. And I'd love to take people around and show what we've done. I mean, you can drive down the highway and see a lot of it, but I can take you to some other places as well.
Thank you. Councilor Griego.
I guess a comment, and it goes back to Mayor Burvik. Back then when we took over that ranch, it was a mess. And to get a person that had the knowledge how to fix it and to work with our Public Works Director, it's been a deal. But like I said, it was brought to my attention, and I'm glad that
I understand.
But you have done a great job, and And I'm sure that Heinz has worked really great with you and the group, our staff is really.
There's more to be done.
Yeah, definitely there is. So,
We've got most of the fencing done. We've probably got about a mile left to do.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. I'll reiterate what council feels is that, you know, we appreciate your presence out there.
Likewise.
And it is a labor of love.
It is.
The ranch has always been the crown jewel for us. A lot of open space, a lot of just country living at its best, in a sense.
Raised right there, you know, around that area for, 60 years, I guess, 65 years. And so I've got different names, you know, for different parcels of the land. The original owners and stuff that maybe you're not real familiar with, but you kind of designated them as numbers, and I've got people's names attached to them.
It would be interesting to see that, or for us to at least look at it. If you had some time to put it down, I would certainly appreciate seeing that. Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Are there any, Councilor Hill?
Thank you, Mayor. This is no more question, but a few people have contacted me about the ranch. Nothing to do with the leasee and Mr. Simpson, but just the what we're doing to the land out there, especially north of the disc golf course, and balancing the nature and the wildlife versus the recreational opportunities. So I would ask council maybe in the future if we can have a work session or something like that, just to talk about our vision out there and what we want to do and that type of stuff.
Thank you, Councilor Hill. I think that's an excellent idea. Kind of put us in touch with Mr. Simpson on a deeper level. All right. Is there any further discussion, Council? Mr. Simpson, thank you for your time.
Yes, likewise.
We'll now move on to City Manager.
Well, I guess if we could get a little bit of direction from council, if you want us to look at doing a competitive process, or if you want us to allow it to just renew as is.
Council, what are your wishes? You want to renew the lease? You want to take it up?
I guess, did you have anybody even ask about the lease?
Not to me, no, sir.
Then I guess we should just let it roll until we get somebody.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. I
That would
wanted
be
to.
my recommendation.
I'll
I
entertain
don't know
a
about the rest of
motion.
the council.
I've got a motion and a second.
Oh, I don't know if we need a motion. It was just more of a discussion, so we knew if we needed to take it out for a competitive process.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Heather. We'll move on to City Manager Legal. We've got a second reading and public hearing on ordinance number 12-2017, an ordinance regulating the personal grow, cultivating, and processing of marijuana. Councilor?
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, this matter has been in front of you in one shape or another many times, most recently for its first reading at your last meeting. And at that first reading, Council directed me to make some changes to the draft ordinance as it had been presented at first reading. And I included in the material a red line that shows what those changes are between the first and the second readings. Some of really the significant ones were mirroring what the state has. It hasn't done it yet because the bill is still pending for the awaiting the governor's signature, but mirroring what the state is presumably going to enact with respect to a larger plant limit for medical marijuana, 24 plants for medical caregivers and medical patients, as opposed to 12 in a residence for recreational plants. And then also the original draft ordinance had contained a limitation prohibiting growing in outdoors, requiring that plants be grown indoors, and that was removed there. And then there's some other minor changes to the ordinance between first and second reading. But other than that, we are up for a public hearing tonight on this, and I guess what I would suggest is if I could have a show of hands of those who are planning to speak at the public hearing, then we can get a feel for whether we might need to impose some time limits or not. It's like about 8 people or so. I guess my feeling, Mayor, would be we probably don't need any time limits. I would ask that people keep their comments from being repetitious, but other than that, I don't see that there's a need for time limits unless council feels that need.
Thank you, Councilor. So we will dispense with the time limits, and we will open the public hearing on ordinance number 12-2017, an ordinance regulating the personal growing, cultivating, and processing of marijuana. All those in favor or against this ordinance, would you please come to the podium and make your wishes known? Thank you. Identify yourself and your address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Shanna Hobbs, and I'm a resident of the county. I'm coming before you tonight just to, first of all, remind everyone that this is a personal issue. It is about if you are willing, able to grow your own medicine. I understand that public comments are meant to be heard from all sides, but I just want that to be the prevailing theme, that most of these people that are going to be discussing their fears and their own personal experiences, they'll project onto a harmless plant. And I just want the council to be reminded that this does need to be regulated. It does need to have some sort of stipulations put on it so that normal law-abiding citizens can have a way to complain and there be a course of action that they can take. But like I said, to be reminded that this is about if you're going to grow it yourself. So people that are not going to engage in the growing of it, the cultivating of it, and the use of it, should be reminded that they will have a course of action if their neighbors are bothering them, or if there's a problem with an area of town that is having issues due to that 20% that don't obey the law. So I just want to thank you for also being mindful that medical marijuana users have a more pertinent, maybe more personal need for access to growing their own, but also that any use, whether you buy it at a recreational store, or you grow it your own, or you buy it at a medical store, any use of marijuana is the same effect in the body, whether it's to provide stress relief or relief from terminal illnesses or chronic daily conditions that people have to live with. They shouldn't be vilified because they want to grow their own medicine, because chances are they're growing their own food too in their yard. A lot of people that are homeopathic providers and believe in holistic types of treatments, I don't understand why they're not more of a proponent for it, other than personal experiences, like I said, fear, conditioning with their religious beliefs, things of that nature. That'd be the only guess I can make for resistance of why someone would want to disallow someone to have access to a safe and therapeutic plant that our state has already legalized. Our county has already voted for legalization and approval of those types of facilities and those rights to grow their own. So I do appreciate y'all taking up the cause to make sure that it's feasible and that it's not a detriment to our community. I believe we've got a lot more bigger fish to fry when it comes to drugs in this community: heroin, meth, prescription pills, alcohol, all of those things which are far more deadly, and, well, you can't process at home. You have to go through channels to get. this being able to grow at home is something that is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, because it's a connection with the earth, and they're able to thank God for creating this plant, to be able to use it therapeutically or for stress relief rather than the alternatives. As far as protecting children and children's safety goes, that has been and always will be the job of the parent, and nobody can force parents to do the right thing. We just hope that they have sense enough to be mindful of where their plants are and how they're stored and how they're grown. But keeping that in mind, there are thousands of children under age 18 in the state of Colorado that are using this medicine to keep them from dying, to help their brain heal from epileptic seizures and those types of disabilities. So keep in mind that the safety of children should be utmost of parents and all people that are having anything in their home that's accessible, whether it be alcohol or cigarettes or prescription drugs. They should always be kept out of reach of children. That's just common sense. And as far as what it will do for, I guess, neighborhoods and things like that, again, that should be a concerned citizen matter. If you have an issue with it, now there's an avenue that you can take to report that. You should be thankful for that. But we shouldn't abuse that either. So I appreciate our law enforcement that's going to be looking into those matters, and I hope that it doesn't become an issue for them. So I just want to thank y'all for the changes that y'all made as far as the different plant counts for the med and rec patients, and for outdoor growing as it should be. So thank y'all very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak for or against this ordinance, please step to the podium.
Councilman, I'm Terry Wiley. I'm a chiropractor in Alamosa, and I live in the county. The access and availability of marijuana in our communities. Several years ago, we had a momentum and conservative approach to limit the availability and access in our city. I think that's shown with our traditions of winters, our cross-country, our visitors that want to come to our town, the county governments, hosting the firefighters and those type of things. Our safe community reflects that. The access and availability, I look at the Hudson Institute and what they say it does to communities. More access brings more availability. The smartcolorado.org, what's going on in other communities on the Front Range and some of the smaller towns. We're seeing increases of crime, social costs that are burdening and breaking the backs of some of the ER. If you go to Code Red in Pueblo, you'll see the costs are getting quite high with ERs. Our conservative approach here, we don't have that maturity of the bad sides of marijuana. We align with the state with our 12 plant and 24 plant. And I'd like us to go back to that first reading and go with just the indoor grow and not allow the outdoor grow. I would like to not see more access for more availability. The Valley Courier last week, June 2nd, just the quotes there from our Chief Officer Oaks saying about the increase, the home invasions, the gang members, the same thing Durango has seen their violent crime increase. We have seen that already here. Trinidad Police Chief is absolutely overwhelmed, unquote. It's like, we don't need to go there. I think our conservative approach, and there will be more on this as our nation keeps going that direction. I think our safety and our traditions for our community need to be kept intact. So I would encourage us to go back to that first reading and not allow the outdoor grows and just stay with the limits on the indoor grows. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Sue Kanan. I've been a resident of Alamosa for 30 years and a business owner. And I am against the ordinance. I have 5 grandchildren. It's hard enough being a parent raising them without having this all around them. It's very difficult. Not only that, but my son is an alcoholic and a marijuana user, and he also suffers from gastritis irritations from the recreational marijuana that he is able to get. I do believe in medical marijuana, and I have a daughter with cancer, or is recovering from cancer, and the marijuana, I would like for her, if she wanted to use it, have the access through medical channels to get it. We already have the availability in this valley to get marijuana, recreational and medical. I don't see a need for us to bring that into our community. After speaking with Sheriff Jackson, he said that it comes, this type of thing comes with the element that is very difficult to deal with. They just don't have the manpower to be able to deal with all that comes with it. And I find that it would be detrimental for our community in Alamosa to bring that into the city limits.
I'm Don Kanan, and I live here in the city, and I'm Sue's husband, so I don't need to reiterate all she said. I'm more of a libertarian. You know, I was kind of okay with the state decriminalizing marijuana. I think that what adults do in their own home should be none of the government's business, city government, county government, anybody else's. But I do have serious concerns about expanding accessibility. I think the city should be as restrictive as possible with particularly recreational use and manufacturing or growing in the city. I'm not so concerned about medical use because I think it has a legitimate place in our society. But I think that somebody driving out into the county to get access to their marijuana is just perfectly okay. And I don't think we need to expand it anymore within our city, and that's just my feeling. Thank you.
Thank you, City Council, for letting me come back again. You didn't pass any rules that I'm aware of at this point. I think it's important. We have, as I understand it, on our books right now, an ordinance that allows for 12 medical marijuana plants and, 24 and then 12. And this new ordinance that's being proposed is to allow that to be in the city of Alamosa. And at this point, it's not it can be in the state, it can be in the county, but it cannot be in the city. And I feel vitally concerned with the idea that all of a sudden we are going to take and bring to our community the opportunity to have an increase, essentially doubled, in the amount of marijuana plants that are available. Now, I know that the medical profession has taken some pretty strong stances against the idea as to how medical marijuana should be used under a controlled situation, but recreational, they feel, is out of line. Excuse me. And if you read the law enforcement reports on what's happening to communities like our community because of the flagrant use of what marijuana can do, it's staggering. So I say, why change the law that we have in place? The one we have in place has been working for quite some time. And why change that to anything different? You can't grow it outdoors, and you can only grow so many plants for medical. And I'm not just totally sure how many are involved with recreational, but we have, whatever we have has been working quite well. So I suggest to this city council that it take the responsibility, as the old saying goes, bite the bullet, and let's just leave things alone the way they are, and not bother trying to take and move on with new ideas. Now, I don't think there's anybody in here in this room tonight that would be considered experts on the effect what marijuana can do, other than the medical profession. But it's important for you as councilors to give serious consideration that this second reading and then voting it to pass it will be totally detrimental to our community. And that's my stance on it. And I thank you for listening.
Excuse me, Mayor, excuse me. Eric, if you don't mind, and Heather, I know we have public comments, but I just want to make sure we're clear right now so that when these comments are made, people are clear about what we're trying to do. Correct me if I'm wrong, but right now, we don't have anything in place to limit the amount of grows a person can grow in their house right now or outside. Am I correct, or what do we have?
Correct. One of the issues that gives rise to this ordinance is that under state, we're not talking about commercial operations at all. Commercial operations which have to be licensed through the Marijuana Enforcement Division or the Department of Revenue are prohibited within the city of Alamosa, and this ordinance does not change that at all. This ordinance addresses personal marijuana grows, whether for recreational or medical use. Those are not regulated by the state at all, other than the limit on 6 plants for an adult over the age of 21. And the issue that arises then is you can get 4 adults, 4 21-year-olds sharing a house, and 4 times 6 is 24. So you got 24 plants in that house. What this ordinance does is addresses that situation and puts a cap on the number of plants that you can have in a residence. So this isn't a question of opening up the city of Alamosa to personal growing of marijuana. This is a question of regulating personal growing of marijuana within the city of Alamosa, which without this and until the state regulation, which is actually similar, is completely unregulated today. So this is introducing some regulations that do not currently exist into how you can operate your personal grow. And not only is it a limit on the number of plants you can have, but also on the space in which you can grow them if you're inside, on the kinds of, that they can't be perceptible from your property line, so you can't have odor issues, you can't have visual issues, that they have to be compliant with our fire and electrical codes. So it's tightening up the way in which people already have the right to grow their own personal use marijuana.
And on that note, I'll thank the council for taking a proactive approach to this matter. That way we have a chance to control it. And we're not seeing grows that have 99 plants or 100 plants or major plants like that, like other cities and metropolitans. Those are the people that are running on the gray or black lines. The people that we're talking about here are sick individuals, cancer patients, people that absolutely need it. And it's not actually about growing marijuana. It's nothing about that. It's nothing about control. It's about freedom. when you take a person that's law-fearing, God-fearing, tax-paying individual and telling them what to do in their own home, I take that kind of like an offense. It's like if we're communists, you know, and I don't like that. Thousands upon thousands of men have gone to their deaths in battle fighting for our rights. And this is not even, marijuana is not the issue here. It's about our rights as human beings to do as we see fit. Everybody that's in this room is well over 21. Nobody here can tell anybody what to do or how to do it. So it's not about the issue, it's about freedom. And that's all I have to say.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Walsh. I live in the county. I respectfully request that the City Council reinstate a ban on the outdoor grows in the pending ordinance. My request is based upon my professional experience as a prosecuting attorney and as someone who's been protecting the interests of crime victims for the last 35 years. I have seen drugs and marijuana cause individuals to become victims of violent crimes. In my extensive research throughout the last 3 years, looking across Colorado and the impact that marijuana has had in various communities, I have seen a growing problem legally, criminally, throughout the state. From children jumping fences to get into somebody's outdoor grow, to adults jumping fences to get to the outdoor grows. This is prolific in Pueblo and in Denver. In Denver, last fall, we had 2 young children. A 15-year-old boy was shot in the back and killed, and a 14-year-old boy is now paralyzed because they made the foolish decision to jump and try and steal a man's outdoor grow. He shot them from a second-floor window to protect marijuana. 60% of Colorado's jurisdictions have banned marijuana operations. That's the majority of the state. Recognizing that Colorado does have a constitutional amendment to allow marijuana for recreational and medical consumption, I understand that the city does have a duty to look at providing an ordinance to govern the personal growth. However, allowing an outdoor grow is not in the best interests of the city. It's not in the best interests of our children. It's not in the best interests of our property values. It is clear from other communities that outdoor grows diminishes the property values of those community homes around those properties. Odor being a major problem, crime being another problem. Alamosa, tonight the word vision has been raised frequently about the objective for Alamosa. I'd like to remind the City Council about the vision and mission statement that the city has already developed. The vision statement says that the City of Alamosa works to provide a welcoming environment for its citizens, businesses, and visitors, maintaining and promoting respect for our rich heritage of ethnic and cultural diversity and our positive interactions with our community partners. Under your heading of community, you work to make Alamosa more livable by developing appropriate corridors for both pedestrians and bicycle traffic, and to reduce crime and create a safe environment for residents and visitors. As you want to attract more conferences to the valley, look at what's happened to Denver. There are many conferences that used to be held in Denver, but the reports back from those who have attended have said they will not come back to Denver because of the prolific drugs in downtown Denver. I also refer you to the article on June 1st of our own Chief of Police, who stated that there is clear connections between crime and the increased access to marijuana. Marijuana may not be the only drug that we have to worry about, but it is the issue that is before the council tonight. Outdoor grows clearly invite criminal behavior to increase in the valley. We'd like to hope that we can maintain the traditional values of Alamosa and the San Luis Valley. We have an impact. What goes on in the city impacts everybody throughout the valley. We have a rich culture in the valley. We have a family-oriented history. And I hope that we can preserve this. I hope it does not go down the pathway that Pueblo West and Pueblo have gone down. I have seen the damage that the marijuana industry has brought upon these communities. I have seen the damage persons throughout Pueblo West and Pueblo from the drugs. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Please approach the podium.
My name is Darrell Cooper. I live in the city of Alamosa. I would concur with everything that has been said in opposition to this ordinance tonight. My big concern would be the outdoor grow. I agree with Mr. Garcia that what I do in my own home is my business. But when that goes to an outdoor grow, then that affects me. It affects my enjoyment of my yard, being outside in the summertime when this marijuana would be growing. If it's outside, we know what our growing season is here. And if we are to allow the outdoor grow and the increase in the plants, as has been stated, we will attract those that we may not want to our city. Earlier tonight, you approved a sign being placed by the college at the gateway to our city. Are we going to have a plaque at the bottom of that? And, oh, by the way, look in several yards, you may find marijuana. I mean, I don't think we want that. Now, you as a council have to listen to your constituents, and I hope that you have tonight. Listen to your constituents, and that you will vote as you should as representatives of that. We have voted for you, and we would expect you to vote what you have heard from your constituents. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Thank you, Mr. McCann.
Dan McCann, 1809 Sunset Drive, Alamosa, Colorado. I live across the street from the college, and I want to thank the people, because I did run for city council 4 times, county commissioner once. I want to thank you people for not voting for me, because I don't want to sit up there and do what you got to do.
Thank you, Mr. McCann. Please hold your applause.
Ruthie Brown. Speaking for or against marijuana is almost like telling people who you voted for president. Sometimes you just can't do it. I always worry because it's Alamosa, it's a small town. I worry that I can respect people for how they believe, but I have people who don't respect me for what I believe. It's sad that we've come to that. A couple questions about the ordinance is we talk about a 10 by 10 foot area, right, Eric? 10 by 10. So the funny part about that is you're going to grow, no one's going to grow 12 to 24 plants in a 10 by 10 foot area. It's like, okay, so what are we going to enforce? Plant count or size? You know, we've heard in previous meetings that plants can grow 15 feet tall and 9 feet wide. Well, that's one plant in a 10-foot room. So I think you need to look at that because that's a little funny. I still wonder about the lights. And I do believe what Robert says, that it is freedom. It's in your own home. We're not, on your own property that you pay for, pay taxes on, keep clean. So telling someone what lights they grow with, and I don't know much about lights, but I brought some catalogs if you want to look at 90 pages that describe different lights. I don't know what's best, but they're all over the board, and I don't know if the state is making it illegal to use high-pressure sodium or metal halide lights, or the ceramic metal halide lamps, I think, are one of the latest ones to reduce power, to eliminate 1,000-watt ballast, so then you get a 600-watt system, and then you don't have the horrendous cost of an LED light. Just in one catalog, there's 90 pages with some advertising on lights. So I find it hard to have someone tell me if I was going to grow what I have to use to grow. That's like telling me I want to garden tomatoes outside and I have to use Miracle-Gro. I don't sell Miracle-Gro in my store. Marijuana, it doesn't scare me. I've said that before. I don't believe someone growing in their home, in their yard, if it's fenced in and contained, is going to hurt Alamosa. I have real mixed feelings on dispensaries or things like that. I've seen them in other cities, and when they don't regulate it and they don't follow the rules, and you have bad people everywhere. You have bartenders that sell to kids by mistake with fake IDs. You have liquor stores that do that. When marijuana first came into being, as a garden center owner, I had no idea what was happening, except people were coming and asking for potting soil. I had not a clue. But I did go out of my way and talk to every doctor I know, every emergency room physician, every nurse, and many policemen. And yet, the sad thing is because of their jobs, the policemen can't say whether they're for or against marijuana. Their job is to enforce the law. Whether they've had family members with cancer who have used marijuana. But out of all of the people I talked to, especially from emergency rooms, 100% of them said, legalize it. They said they did not have the problems in the emergency room or with domestic abuse because of pot. They had it because of alcohol, meth, heroin. I'm sure cocaine's still out there. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. the people who have done me wrong and my business wrong have not been people who use marijuana. They're the alcoholics, the guys on drugs that lie to you, cheat, steal, take your grandmother's checkbook, get their grandparents evicted from their homes. That's not for pot. I don't grow, I don't use, but I do believe in freedom. And it's my property. It's their property. No one's making you grow. And at the same time, I'm like Shanna, I do appreciate what the police would do to enforce it. I guess the last other thing I had a question on was hang on, I marked it. It says, any indoor marijuana cultivation area shall include a ventilation and filtration system designed to ensure that odors from the cultivation are not blah, blah, blah. This shall include, at a minimum, a system meeting the requirements of the current adopted edition of the International Residential Code. I don't even know what that is. I don't know if anyone in this room really knows what that is. To me, when I look at ventilation and I think someone getting a fan and a duct, where are they going to duct it to? Outside? Under their house? Into the ozone? I don't know that you're making an undue hardship if there's no problem. And I don't understand, they shall have it, or they have to have it, or is it if someone there's a lot of little things, and that I'll be saying. I had a lady in the store today. I had my truck parked out front backwards because we were unloading flowers, and the lady was, oh my God, who's got their truck running? The diesel fumes are terrible. And I couldn't smell a damn thing. The customer at my counter could not smell a dang thing. And I shut my door, and a little bit later I moved my truck, and I apologized and said, I'm sorry, that was my truck. No one else could smell those diesel fumes, but she did. So I guess the other thing you need to regulate is who's going to smell it with a normal nose. I don't know. Thank you.
I'm Carl Wright. I live at 703 Douglas Drive here in the city, and thank you for serving us. Your decisions based on your vision statement indeed benefit all of us in the city, and as some of the councilors have mentioned, the city serves the county too, and the people of the county benefit from the decisions you make here. As we talk about freedom, we have freedom to use our vote to ask you to serve us, and we have our freedom to ask you to make decisions that allow us to live as free people. And when there are increases in social cost, when there are increases in crime, those impact everyone's freedom. So as you decide and make your decisions, and as we see information that correlates the greater access to marijuana with rising crime, and greater costs, social costs. In effect, your efforts to restrict access and these grows that are outdoor or indoor, the marijuana produced can enter the market, either the gray market or the black market, being sold illegally or sold to medical marijuana users or to users who are receiving it through dispensaries. As you consider the social cost, I live in the community and work as a pastor, and part of my work is addressing people in need. And recently, I became acquainted with a young person, a homeless person, and this person did not benefit from receiving marijuana, but that person did have access to marijuana and was given marijuana. That didn't help this person's situation. And that person was not 21 years old. Governor Hickenlooper was quoted recently in a Smart Colorado post that memory is irreversibly impaired through frequent marijuana use. Particularly, I believe his quotation referred to developing brains. In this acquaintance that I made recently, that person was not getting what they needed. My colleague, Pastor Har at the Living Water Church, has spoken to you before, and they have a process for helping people in need, a more extensive process than my congregation. And the extent of people in need, broke, not able to pay their bills, keep a roof over their heads. He has spoken to you, and I remind you of his comments last fall, that the great majority of those people were people that came to Colorado, came to the San Luis Valley for the opportunity to grow and cultivate marijuana. As we entrust you with making these decisions, I reiterate what Dr. Wiley said, that the conservative approach is really the approach which best respects everyone's freedom. Thank you.
If there's no one else in the audience wishing to speak for or against, I will close this public hearing and bring it to council for further discussion or a decision. Councilor Stefano.
You know, the last time we had a meeting, I got an egg on my face. I also made a statement that I won the popularity contest that night because I stood up against marijuana. Like I said, reiterate, I did smoke it. I know what it does, and I know what it did to me. And the gentleman talked about freedom. There was a lot of men that went to Vietnam, and they were smoking Thai sticks, they called them back then. And from that point, they went to further drugs. A lot of them got shot while under the influence of drugs over there. And it started with Thai stick, marijuana. We do have a freedom to do whatever we please in our house. We have the freedom to use alcohol. How many police calls are made on domestic violence because of alcohol? Okay? The last meeting that we attended here, there was 3 people that spoke up, and I'm going to put my credibility on the line, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. but they were stoned out of their minds. They could barely talk. And they say that marijuana doesn't affect your mind. If you think about something, when you hear a song and it sticks with you, you sing that tune over and over. It reminds you of that song. Same with marijuana, okay? Like I said, I smoked it. In my day, it wasn't as potent as it is today, 10 times more potent. They're cloning it to make it stronger and stronger and stronger. Heroin, they cut it with all kinds of crap to make it more sellable. If you get a gram of heroin and you cut it with something, you make 10 grams out of it and you double your money. This is not about a lot of things about the marijuana. It's about the money, okay? Kids are what they see. They see their mom and dad in the medicine cabinet dropping pills. That kid grows up, hey, it's okay to take pills. Dad beats up on mom, kid sees that, so he starts beating on his wife when he gets married because it's okay. Everything in the world today is okay. The Bible says that everything in the last days that's bad is going to be good, and everything that's good is going to be bad. Ms. Hobbs, you know, when God was put on the shelf, this country's been going to hell in a handbag, and that's literally the truth. You talk about the money, in God we trust, and all this stuff. Ms. Hobbs says that God put this plant on the earth. God did not put this plant on the earth, because if you read the Word says that the devil, he gave dominion to the devil over the powers of the earth. He grows whatever he wants, okay? Anything negative that our bodies were not meant to ingest all this crap that we're coming up with. Every oxycodone, now they come up with a stronger one, okay? It's all about money, the drugs, okay? How many people are out there today homeless because of drugs? And we don't care. As long as we got what we want, we don't care about them, the homeless people. Why are they there? They used to be upstanding citizens, and now all of a sudden they're begging for food because of the drug situation that we have today. Look around you. We had the winos under the bridge. Thank God the police finally cleared them out. But the addictions run deep. And I know what marijuana does. Like I say, I smoked it, and I know what it did to me, okay? They say a lot of the young people, we're all old school because we're old. We've never lived that life before, like when you were young. We were young, just like you are. But the drugs today are 10 times stronger than they were in our day, and that's a fact, okay? So anyway, I believe that this country has lost their spine. They have no spine. They don't stand up for what they believe in anymore. It's okay to use drugs. It's okay to do your neighbor's wife, whatever. That's the truth. That's what we're living at today. And it's all because we allow everything. It's okay to do this. It's okay to do that. Hillary Clinton lied through her teeth about all kinds of stuff. And we just, oh, okay, Hillary, whatever. You know, what's wrong with our country? So anyway, I'm going to close with my, if what happens to the kids is my concern, and we're all talking about our concern for our children. For God's sake, look at it. If they see mom and dad smoking a joint, they're going to want to smoke a joint. And you don't think it kills motivation and all that, try smoking a joint. And you'll see what it does to you, okay? That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Mr. Stefano. Councilor Hensley.
So up until now, we haven't had any regulations on this. And so anybody who wanted to grow could grow. So the way I'm seeing this is we're actually tightening things up. We're putting some regulations there. So the way I'm taking this is honestly, I don't think all of a sudden we're going to see an influx of growing or anything like that, because those that have wanted to have already been doing it. This has nothing, at this point, what we're looking at here is personal growth. It's sort of beyond or isn't dealing with the fact as far as are we wanting to have it being sold in the city, things like that. That's a whole other issue. So I feel like what this is doing is actually putting some restrictions on it. And one of the things that I also, when it comes to the outdoor grow, those that are growing it outdoors already are. Those that are growing it indoors already are. If this goes through, it might tighten that up a little bit for those that are already growing, but it's not going to be like, okay, now there's a new regulation, let's everybody jump in and grow more. And so my concern on if we take the outdoor out is then pushing a lot of people to bring it indoors that can't afford the lighting, that can't afford to do it. And we can say it's illegal, but I have concerns about my next door neighbor, and I'm not saying but just that idea of fires and things like that that could happen because we're pushing something indoors. And the person who's doing this may not have the capability to do what it takes to grow it indoors. And I do feel that having the fences and the things like that still does the protection. So for me, I really appreciate staff putting this together. I do feel we need to look at this and definitely have some structure to this, having some guidelines and boundaries. But at the same time, like I say, what we're doing here is actually putting the boundaries in that we didn't have prior. So that's my stand on it.
Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Hensley. I agree with you. I do think it's important that we remind ourselves that people are allowed to make decisions that they want to. Right now, we don't have any regulations about this. The standard building code or the current adopted edition of the International Residential Code is what we use, Ruthie. It is part of our zoning requirements. It's something that's pretty standard, and you can find that. The other things about the lights, like I don't necessarily like telling people what they need to use either. However, I do think that having the kinds of restrictions, these have been shown to help other communities have less of a fire risk, less of those other kinds of risks. And so for the indoor grows, I do believe that, unless we get a complaint, we're not going to investigate everybody's house to make sure they're using the right lights. But if we get a complaint, those kinds of things. I do think that the nuisance ordinance and having that available to people, the outdoor grows I think are necessary because of the cost of doing it indoor. I really do believe in that. I also believe that ours mirroring the state's gives us the guidance and the guidelines that we need as a community in order to be able to function and be able to have people have this, that they're, like what Councilor Hensley said, they're already doing it. We just don't have the regulations around it to help us as a city. This is not about selling or bringing in commercial grows or anything like that. I do think parents have to be responsible. There are parts of what Councilor Stefano said that I agree with. Parents need to do the same thing they do with their other drugs, their other alcohol. There's a Talk It Up, Lock It Up campaign for alcohol and prescription drugs. Should be the same thing for marijuana. We want to make sure that our families and our youth and our community is educated the way we educate about other drugs and alcohol. And so I appreciate the work that the staff has done on this. I am comfortable with the ordinance the way that it is currently. I wouldn't ask for any changes at this point, but I do know that other councilors have comments, but I appreciate the work that's been done on it.
Are there any other comments? Councilor Vihil.
Thank you, Mayor. We heard a lot tonight in our hearing about the expanding marijuana use through recreational or medical dispensaries, and we're not talking about that tonight. That will be coming up soon through a petition that's being sent around town, and I believe that those signatures might be submitted, and I think there's enough signatures. That's a whole different story. I think only we're talking about, like Ms. Hensley and Ms. Daniel said, was the personal grow and how we can regulate that. And I think, and I'm going to reiterate what I said 2 weeks ago to Mr. Stefano, I think we're being very responsible in coming up with an ordinance to protect the city as well as people in their own homes. And I have had conversations with people for and against different things in here. And I think the hot button issue tonight might be the outdoor grow situation. One term that was used often tonight was conservative and the conservative approach to marijuana. And I believe that this ordinance is very conservative. We're not allowing 99 plants. We're not allowing huge grow rooms. We're not allowing people to grow it in multifamily dwellings. We're not allowing rentees to grow it in their property without permission from the rentor. So I think we're very conservative on that. I agree. One question I do have is on that 100-foot square, that 10 by 10 thing. And I don't know, because I don't grow, I don't smoke, I don't know any of that stuff. But if the things that we've heard over the last few months about how big these plants can grow, would they be able to fit in a 10 by 10? And I guess I didn't communicate well enough last time. If these plants get so big in a very limited space, wouldn't that create some sort of hazard?
Well, I don't know either. What I can tell you is that looking at other jurisdictions that have enacted personal grow regulations, 10 by 10 by 10, or a square footage of 100 and a cubic footage of 1,000 is a common number that those regulations cite to. One of the reasons for that is if all you have is a number of plant limits. I have seen photos of one plant that could take up 10 by 10 by 10, but that doesn't mean that you would want to have necessarily the plant be that big, and it certainly doesn't mean that if all you do is limit number of plants, you may not be achieving the kind of limitations to address building code and fire code and mold kind of issue safeties, because people can get around that. So to directly answer your question, is 10 by 10 a reasonable size? It's a size that's common in these kinds of regulations. I don't grow marijuana, so I don't know whether that's a reasonable size. But if you're talking about 12 plants, well, let's say 10 plants, because we work on the decimal system much easier. That's 10 square feet per plant, which is a fairly large, that's a heck of a lot bigger than the biggest office house plant I've ever had. That's a pretty big plant that's taking up 10 square feet of area.
Okay, thank you. Just a few questions, if you can just help me out so that we all are on the same page. As the ordinance is written, we're saying 24 for medical?
Yes.
And we're saying 12 for recreational growth?
Yes.
Okay, and then one more thing I had for council was on that outdoor grow. I do have a bit of a concern about young kids jumping fences and trying to steal that. I do think, though, that our growing season is so short that I don't know if people are going to be able to grow outdoors anyway, or at least try. Grow it. But again, I think the people are already growing it in their homes. They have been since 2012, probably even before. We are being responsible and trying to make this safe for everybody involved.
And Councilor Vigil, I just wanted to make one comment. You had mentioned that one of the things that this ordinance was regulating was not allowing tenants to grow without permission of their landlord. It does not do that, in contradistinction to many that do.
Councilor Daniel?
Thank you. I just had a clarifying question as well after hearing Councilor Vigil. The 10 by 10 space is not, though, outdoor, correct? Okay. And we do have a site barrier requirement in the ordinance listed, so, and then we would also encourage people, if they're growing outdoors, they take appropriate safety precautions. I mean, I think that would be the part of a responsible grow as well.
I guess there's no one left but me. Initially, I was thinking, well, you know, maybe outdoor grows aren't such a bad thing. You know, I served in the military for 7 years. I didn't really carry an M16 or defend anybody's freedom with a rifle. However, I did put my 7 years in for the freedoms that I enjoy in this community and the freedoms that I enjoyed giving my children. Laws are passed to prevent abuse. My responsibility as a father, a parent, a husband, is to prevent abuse for anyone I love. We're talking tonight about an issue specific to outdoor grows. I've seen people grow marijuana in the valley, out on farmland, public lands, wherever they can grow it, they profit from it, and the impacts are great. And so the laws are passed to prevent that kind of abuse. And I can guarantee you there's a lot of people that will abuse outdoor grows in the city of Alamosa if it passes. I worry about the impact on the social order of our neighborhoods, the impact it's going to have on your neighbors or you yourself if someone starts growing marijuana next to you. Are you going to be afraid for your kids if somebody jumps that fence with a knife so they can cut down a few plants? Because once somebody knows that you're growing marijuana, then all of a sudden you become a target, whether you like it or not. It's going to impact the safety concerns of our people and the police that have to deal with a lot of the issues that come with edibles. Suppose your children get a hold of it, an edible of some kind. We give out safety awards to our police officers for saving lives because people can't breathe, or maybe a child got too much of an edible substance that he wasn't supposed to get, or maybe even pills. The impact of the criminal behavior of both the growers, the users, and the criminals themselves. There's an impact element there as well. How about the ability of the innocents? You know, we talked about poisonings. I mean, that happens all the time. And kids abusing not only marijuana, but drugs of all kinds. Developing brains don't need this kind of abuse. Somebody mentioned the impact on property values. Is somebody going to buy your home if your neighbor's growing marijuana outside? Think about it. We're placing our innocence in danger because we are attracting undesirable people to these outdoor grows. Initially, I thought, well, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe I can deal with it. Everybody deserves a right to have that kind of recreational freedom. But the more I thought about it, and the more I visited with the one I love in my life, the more I realized that this is not something I want in my community. This is not something that I would like for my neighbor to have. And so with that, that's my feeling. Laws are passed to prevent abuse. That's what keeps us all safe. If we look at this and we allow this to happen, I think we are abusing the power that was given us. That's my final statement. So, Council, it's up to you. Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve upon second reading ordinance number 12, 2017, an ordinance regulating the personal growing, cultivating, and processing of marijuana.
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I have some discussion, Mayor.
Councilor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. And thanks for all of the comments you all made earlier. I'm probably more confused than most people right now with all the conversations we've had tonight. I was under the impression that tonight we were voting on an ordinance that would put in place some regulations that we currently don't have in place right now. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. I also was under the impression that a no vote tonight basically means that people can grow, right now we don't have anything in place. They can grow 99 plants if they want to, according to the state. Am I correct with that in Alamosa?
With the proper medical
With the proper
licensure.
medical?
Well, that's a little too simplistic. I mean, a no vote could mean that you want to enact something that includes a ban on growing it outside. So you vote no on this and then propose one with that ban on it.
Okay, but a few weeks ago when we had the community come and give their input, we had it to where there was a no grow, and then all of a sudden we changed it to a grow outside. Now we have an opportunity to go back to no growing outside.
Sure, you have an opportunity to change it in whatever way you want. Before you hadn't heard any official public comment. You had heard people making comments at the audience comment section of the meeting, and you took some of those into account, and you had your own discussions, and you directed me to change it, but you can certainly direct me to change it back.
So if we don't pass an ordinance today, we don't have anything in place to regulate the grows inside the home or outside.
That's correct. Heather said not beyond the state, and the state doesn't have anything right now either.
So council, are you all clear with that?
Are you making a motion, Mr. Coleman? There's one on
No,
the
sir,
floor.
I'm not making a motion. I just wanted to make sure everyone was
Well,
clear. I wanted to see if there was any other comments to where someone wanted to modify the ordinance or anything like that, or is you going to stick with the one that's in place so that we can have some regulations in place to limit the number of plants and the square footage and make sure that safety measures are in place with the lighting and things like that?
I've got a motion and a second on the floor to approve ordinance number 12-2017, an ordinance regulating the personal growing, cultivating, and processing of marijuana, and that includes outdoor grows. Start voting, council. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried 5-2 with Mayor Lucero and Councilor Stefano casting the no votes.
Thank you. We will now move on to the second reading on and public hearing on ordinance number 13-2017, an ordinance amending section 11-100 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Alamosa to align the language of the ordinance concerning theft with the changes to the statute concerning theft found at Colorado Revised Statutes 18-4-401 and deleting sections 11-104 governing theft of rental property and 11-105 governing theft by receiving as encompassed with sections 11-100 as amended. Councilor?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, second reading of an ordinance that you have had before you before, which is essentially a housekeeping ordinance to update our theft code to more closely mirror what the state definitions of the various categories of theft are. The advantage, of course, to that being that there is a large body of state interpretive case law using those same kinds of statutory concepts that we don't have, because you just don't have that same kind of case law for municipal cases. And just for ease of our citation writing by our police officers and our court dealing with the issues, it makes sense to make them align. That's what this ordinance does.
Thank you. And so with that, I will open the public hearing on ordinance number 13-2017. If there's anyone in the audience wishing to speak for or against this ordinance, please approach the podium and make your wishes known. Mr. McCann.
Dan McCann, 829 Sunset Drive, Alamosa, Colorado. Anything that makes things more efficient for the police to understand what they're trying to do is just going to make things better for everybody.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak for or against this ordinance? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing on ordinance number 13-2017. Bring it to council for further discussion or a decision. Councilor Vihil?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve ordinance number 13-2017.
Councilor Hensley?
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on ordinance number 13-2017? Seeing none, start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Council. We'll now move on to resolution number 14-2017, a resolution approving an amended schedule of fines for municipal violations.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is somewhat of a housekeeping matter, because having amended the theft ordinance, you need to make the fine schedule consistent with what the theft ordinance is. That's what this does. It also, assuming that there was going to be enacted the personal marijuana grow ordinance, it amends the fine schedule to address those ordinance violations as well. So those are the two changes to the fine schedule that you see before you here. One thing to bear in mind when you're considering this, and this is a, well, actually, I take it back. I was going to say that one thing to bear in mind is that the fine schedule does, as it does with most fines, leave it to the discretion of the judge. But with respect to the marijuana personal grow ordinances, it does institute some minimum fines. That's actually in the ordinance. So having passed the ordinance as written, you need to, housekeeping-wise, do the fine schedule the same way.
Thank you, Councilor. And so, Councilor Vihil.
Mayor, I move that we adopt resolution number 14-2017.
Councilor Daniel, no, Councilor Hensley.
I'll second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second on resolution number 14-2017. Is there any further discussion?
I do, Mayor, I'm sorry. Eric, did you mean that we have to amend the way we just approved the fine schedule? No, everything is fine? Okay.
Everything is fine. I was actually, it's late, so you have to forgive my foggy thinking, but if you look on the fine schedule as set in front of you, it does reflect those minimum values for fines on the marijuana personal grow violations.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
These were not included before on the fine schedule? No.
No, because the ordinances themselves
not
didn't
exist.
exist.
Correct, thank you.
And just all I was pointing out was that none of your other, I'm pretty sure this is correct, none of your other fines list a minimum fine. You do have some fines that list a specified fine, particularly in the model traffic code section. This would be the only section that lists a minimum fine, unless Holly's going to correct me.
I can't hear you, Ms. Hawley.
I guess I'll say it. The only fine that has a minimum is when a person sells to an underage person, and that's a minimum fine of $500.
Thank you, Ms. Hawley. All right. Start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move on to committee reports. Who has a committee report? Councilor Vihil.
Thank you, Mayor. Went to the library board meeting. Just had updates from the library. They're starting their summer reading program for children. They keep on having programming with the dog that reads to children or is there that you can pet and be with the dog for reading. They're going to look at their long and short-term goals within the next couple months, their next couple meetings, and they're excited about the upcoming members that we will approve pretty soon. And also I went to the Rio Grande Farm Park meeting, and they're in full go. They're planting. They're excited about it. They're going to have their soiree, their harvest party in September. And they're going to start doing their on-site farmers market in August. And they're going to have a blessing of the land by different priests and men and women of faith within the next couple weeks. And we're all invited to go if we want. We don't know yet, but I'll let you know when that is.
Thank you, Councilor Vigil. Anyone else? We'll move on then to staff announcements. Ms. Heather?
Given the hour, we have consolidated some of our comments for tonight. One of the more important ones is just given some time constraints, technology issues, and some information we had to kind of clean up a little bit. We have 2 items that we would like to have a special council meeting next week. You are already planning on having a work session related to the audit. That will still occur at 5:30. And then right after that, we will have a special council meeting. Hopefully it won't take any more than 30 minutes, but that's entirely up to council. The first item is a final subdivision plat. And since we don't have the second June meeting, we did not want to make the developer wait until July. And then the second item is we were having to work with the one bidder related to First Street. We feel like we're going to be able to bring that to something that we're comfortable recommending to council. And similarly, we did not want to delay that project until the July 5th meeting so we can get that going. So those are the 2 items we felt were time sensitive enough that we wanted to try to add that extra council meeting next week. So we still have the audit, which is at 5:30. Immediately following that will be the special council meeting. And then following that, we will still have our investment committee meeting, which I believe Councilor Vigil and Daniel are on, if I'm correct. So we'll have an interesting night, but it was one that was already booked. So we appreciate some flexibility on that one. Before I turn it over to Holly for 2 announcements, I just wanted to take this opportunity for everyone who played a role in bringing the art program to fruition. It was amazing to see how positive this community was about it, to see the artists receive some recognition and support. And then the volunteers related to the art committee. I really cannot stress enough the technical expertise we had on that art committee and the work that they did behind the scenes to make it happen. And then finally, Jolene was amazing. I mean, she pulled so many details together and she did it so professionally that she really does deserve a giant thank you. She's not here, which is probably good because she'd get mad at me. So I want to make sure all of that's there. But then, it would not have been possible if council didn't believe in the vision. And for the last 2 years, you guys included funding in the budget for us to help begin the transformation of downtown. And so I just wanted to thank you as well for having that support and helping us bring the volunteers together to make it a reality. And Holly, I think you had a few items.
Okay, so the first one I want to talk about is the petitions. So at the work session, I did provide you with an incorrect date of June 7th being the deadline. She does have until August 7th as the final deadline that she can turn those petitions in. I have not received them yet, so I don't know if you heard that, but I have not received them, but I heard she got a lot this past weekend. So I expect those to be coming in soon. And then the other announcement I had is regarding council election this year. We've got 4 seats up, so we'll start promoting end of June, beginning of July. And then we'll have the candidate orientation session happening August 7th, which is the day before that the petitions can start being circulated. that information will get out to you guys at the end of the month, beginning of July.
Thank you, Holly. We now have our local liquor licensing authority action, consent calendar B. I won't read you what the consent calendar says, but I will say it's for the Alamosa Convention and Visitors Bureau Special Events Permit, Bicycle Tour, Colorado, June the 19th, 2017. Councilor Vihil.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve consent calendar B.
Councilor Hensley.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on consent calendar B? Seeing none, start voting, please. Ms. Hawley?
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Council comment. Councilor Vihil.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to offer my condolences to the family of Joshua Butters Hendren. He ran for city council 2 years ago, and he passed away unexpectedly last week. He was a young, bright mind who offered a lot of different ways of looking at things during the campaign, and he was, I believe, an asset to our community.
Councilor Hensley.
I was going to say the same thing. He's definitely going to be missed. Whenever I saw him, very friendly, always happy. I'm actually going to miss him, his dog Sam, and him driving around in his van and always being so pleasant. I've had many conversations with him. Obviously, him and I were the ones that ran against each other. And even when I won the election, he was definitely very supportive and had always been supportive all the way through. So again, my condolences as well.
Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. I was able to attend a broadband conference a couple of weeks ago as a representative of the city. I learned a huge amount about some things that we need and can hopefully continue to work on through the Broadband Coalition. And so I just wanted to let everyone know that I was able to participate in that, and I have newfound energy for broadband, so that I'm pretty excited to do. The other thing is there is a CRP fundraiser this weekend, and so if people have not had a chance to yet buy their tickets, I hope you do. And I had a question about Huberto Mestis's art. I think his podium is empty on the street.
He had an issue at the foundry with a pour, and there's a few other pieces for communities outside the area that he needed to get done first. And I told him, you know what, you're one of ours, so don't stress over ours. Let us know when you can get it up.
Cool, thank you.
Councilor Griego.
I too want to thank council for the support in supporting this artscape vision. You know, I think the vision now is to maybe one day have a whole weekend where we have nothing but art, in almost like the Sunshine Festival and so forth. And instead of just tagging the art people behind rodeo or behind the Sunshine Festival. So I thank you, council, for supporting it. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Charlie. Councilor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to thank the entire city staff and the entire community in the San Luis Valley for coming out this weekend to celebrate the Art Fest as well as, the art exhibits as well as the Summer Fest. There were a lot of people and a lot of vendors, and by the community participating and coming to events like this, it helps our whole city. So I'd just like to thank the entire staff because they were extremely busy, the entire team, so thank you.
Very good. About a week and a half ago, I had the opportunity to attend a climate summit in Aspen, and during that summit, we had some interesting presenters. I will be sending that information to council. The only thing I signed up to do was provide council and staff with information specific to their objectives, but they're looking at global warming issues, and there are other folks in the community that are concerned about our country dropping out of the European Summit, and so what is our community going to do about that? The information that I'll send you will be through email. I can have hard copies made for you as well. The summit was I believe on tape, and so it will be in its entirety available to you. Fairly good information. We had ex-Governor Romer there, as well as some other dignitaries that study climate control or climate changes and the effects they have on the people in Colorado and the atmospheric issues that it tenders for us here in Colorado, which are fires and floods and things like that. But we can look at that and go from there. So I'll be sending it off to you. I did want to bring to the attention of Public Works that there's a fairly large hole on Murphy, just a little bit north of Sunset and Murphy. It looks like there was a water main break or something and they filled it in, but it's like about a 3-inch gap. And Pat, you might take a look at that or whatever. Governor Hickenlooper passed the rolling coal law, and I think that, I don't know if anybody knows about that, but that is diesel vehicles with these big black clouds that they form. And I think we're probably going to need to look at that and a fine schedule for that as well, unless we already have one. I think it's like $100. I'm not sure. The police department might want to look into that, but I've been behind a few of those vehicles. And I think we still have an 18-wheeler parked on First Street over by the weekends that stays there almost all the time. I know we have an ordinance specifically prohibiting the trailer part of the tractor's okay, but the trailer part is in violation, has been in violation almost all spring and probably winter time. So I thought I'd bring that up. That's all I have for council comment. Anyone else? We'll move on to the executive session. This evening we have a need for an executive session. I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Vihil.
Mayor, I don't know how everybody else feels, but I would suggest maybe we move this to a different night. We've been going since 5 o'clock. I know it deals with the city manager. I want y'all, what do you all think?
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion then to move the executive session, postpone it, or whatever.
Is that good with you, Heather?
It's whatever council's discretion is.
Would you be disappointed?
Honestly, it's whatever council wants.
So I would sort of, since we already are now starting to fill up next Wednesday a little bit, is the idea of doing it next Wednesday afterwards? That way it won't go that, it wouldn't carry us that much further?
I can't. So after I do the investment committee, I have to go to the fire district meeting.
Got it.
So I'm back to back to back, so, but thank you.
I would say we would move.
Did our city manager, Councilor Coleman?
I would recommend we just go ahead and sit down and see what she has to say. So we have so many things lined up over the next month. It's unbelievable. It probably may take 30 more minutes, but at least we can get the ball rolling, because if not, we're going to start getting backlogged with a lot of different things.
Second. That wasn't a motion. It's late. It's late. I move that we move into executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-402 for personnel matters evaluation of the city manager.
I second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the executive session? Start voting, please. Yes. Ms. Hawley?
Somebody vote no. The motion carried 6-1.
Thank you, Ms. Hawley. So with that, we will move. Into executive session. After the executive session, or whatever portion of the executive session we have, we will move back into regular session. No further business will be discussed.